These aren't prescriptions.
Don't give yourself away like that.
Everybody knows.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, and we are live. Well, not live, but hello.
Hi there.
Miss Isla Vu. Did I say that right?
You did.
Isla
Perfect.
Vu. First of all, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm honored that you decided to come into a stranger's house and record a podcast with them. The last person to do that was, wasn't it Snow White? She went to like 7 strange guys' houses.
You're right. And she posted up for a while.
Yeah, for a while. I mean, that turned out okay.
It did, but that's a Disney script too, so you have to keep that in mind.
I mean, Disney's kind of problematic.
It is. We can talk about it if you want.
I mean, we can get into it. Disney's a little lacking in their representation as well.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to be talking about representation of Asians in American cinema, the fetishizing of Asian women in America, which happens a lot. And I think you have some notes as to the other things that we're going to talk about as well. Yes,
I do. Yeah.
I mean, you can go ahead and look at them if you want.
Okay. Yeah. I came prepared, but overall, I did really want to talk about the underrepresentation and misrepresentation of Asian Americans because, as we've discussed beforehand, I think it's blaringly obvious.
Yes, 100%.
Right. And I get worried that because you're now seeing more films come out with Asian leads and then some diversity sprinkled in to the background, that people have this misperception that, oh, no, there's Asian people in cinema. You see it all the time. And, there's still stats surrounding the fact that we are underrepresented, especially in comparison to white people.
Yes, 100%.
Right.
To the point that I was talking to you earlier off camera, how a lot of movies will shoehorn an Asian character in just to try to get some headway into like the Asian markets.
Absolutely.
So they'll just throw an Asian character in
right.
there.
With no depth or dimension.
Yeah.
Just to be like the token Asian in the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? It seems like Asian people are going through the plight that the black community went through. And quite frankly, it's still going through, but the black community went through and is starting to make headway. Now it's like that got passed down almost to our Asian brothers and sisters.
Yes.
It's kind of weird. Like historically, we were talking about this on the Two Endangered Mammals podcast. Historically, whenever an Asian character was in, let's say, a Hollywood movie or something like that, like in the 80s, it was always first of all, for a while, it wasn't even Asian people playing Asian characters. Yeah, it was basically, do they call it yellowface?
I was going to ask and pose that because I've wanted to use that term before. However, I don't want it to take away from blackface.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. Listen,
Right.
we hear you. In the black community, we hear you, believe me.
Right.
So you would have yellowface that would happen a lot. And then once they actually started hiring Asians to be in cinema, it was always a sidekick role. It was always a martial artist.
Exactly.
Or
typecasted.
Yeah, typecasting. And a lot of times it would be, oh, here's this Japanese actor, but we're having him play a Chinese person. Because they all look the same. So it's just, you know what I mean? So you wanted to bring up some stats, but first, let's get into you. Who are you, and what do you do?
Great question. Wow. I feel like that's a first date question that you all,
Well, I mean, technically, this is in a sense our first date. Like
it is.
We are literally just now meeting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like we met on Instagram, and this is our first like in-person interaction.
Yeah.
And
I want to emphasize that I'm the one who reached out and found you on Instagram.
That's wild too.
It is.
It happened very organically.
It did.
Very
because
organically. You found me, and then I listened to your voice and was like, holy crap. Like, for those that don't know, this woman has an amazing voice. 100% amazing. Like, you got to hear it. Go to her Instagram, Satin Cowgirl. and just listen. Like, oh my God.
Thank you.
Like I heard it and was like, I need to make some music. I need to make some music and have her sing over it. Like, or just get, because I think I even told you, I'll just make stuff and give it to you. You do whatever you want to do with it.
Which is so sweet and kind, but I would just feel so weird accepting that,
listen,
you know?
Art is meant to be shared. You know what I mean?
agree.
Like,
yeah.
it's meant to be out there.
Yeah.
So, you said you had a theater background?
I am a theater kid. So what that means is that I was a part of my grade school and high school theater companies, if you want to call them that.
We can call them that.
All right. Yeah. And I was the captain of my high school show choir.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I took acting classes growing up. I went to a well-known acting convention in LA. I even tried I traveled out to Hollywood.
Okay.
When I was 12 with my mother. I was signed to a manager.
Really?
Yes. This was back in 2008, I believe. And there was, I believe it was the Screen Actors Guild strike was going on.
Okay. Okay.
So I remember it just being chaotic in that industry, and I only auditioned for a handful of roles. I took some acting classes. I remember specifically I auditioned for iCarly. That was like the big one. I didn't get it, obviously.
Which role did you audition for?
It was an extra. I had to come in and say something like, "Hey, the principal wants to see you." It was something like that.
I don't think I've ever watched iCarly.
Yeah, I'm 24, so iCarly was around when I was young, and it's not around anymore. But do you know who Miranda Cosgrove is? She's a meme.
What has she been in?
iCarly. She was in Drake and Josh. She was the little scheming sister in Drake and Josh.
Okay. Has she done anything since then?
Honestly, you know, she dipped into the music industry, as most of the Nickelodeon and Disney actresses and actors do.
And as very few of them succeeded.
Sure. Yeah. With the exception of Selena Gomez, which that's another podcast topic because I could go on a tangent.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the one well-known show that I auditioned for. But so my theater background goes back to when I was a kid. And we could dive into this since it is very on topic. I gave up on that passion when I was in high school, maybe my sophomore or junior year of high school. Okay. And since then, I've kind of veered off onto different paths. I've heavily worked in the service industry. Okay. And my passions include live performance. I did some burlesque in Austin, Texas when I lived there.
Okay.
I am an Asian American activist. I'm a writer. Right. So
I have a lot of friends that do burlesque. And
in Cleveland.
Okay. And just throughout my entire life, like I have a lot of family members that have done it. I think my mom might have done it for a while, if I'm not mistaken. I got a lot of respect for the culture.
Yeah.
And just the that side of the entertainment culture in general, whether it be burlesque, whether you're an exotic dancer, whatever it is, like I got a lot of respect for the culture.
Yeah. And burlesque isn't really that popular anymore. It's you have to go to the right neighborhoods and the right cities. So it's something that I am passionate about bringing back to the mainstream live performance industry.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm hoping that during this time, pandemic times, I can really focus on that and bring it back once, you know.
It seems like it got really hipster for a while.
Oh, sure.
Like it became a really niche thing. Whereas before, as far as here in the States, like that was the thing for a long time. And then once strippers came about, burlesque kind of went to the side a little bit.
You're right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it seems like now it's almost like most burlesque shows that I've been to, at least, is a mostly female audience.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
I agree.
The ones that I've been to. Now, I'm not speaking for all.
Sure.
But the ones that I've been to, it seems like it's a mostly female audience.
Well, it's a very empowering thing to see.
Yes.
And it also, you know, I've been to a strip club once in my life. It's a little more intimidating when you go into a strip club as a female.
Right.
You know, because it's for men.
Yes.
In our society, right?
Yes.
So.
Now, here's a question. Do you think that... So my mom used to always say, use what you have to get what you want. So do you view strip clubs as being like objectifying, or is it empowering? Because in a sense, the women are using what they have to get what they want.
Right.
You know what I mean? But then also there are men there objectifying them. So it's kind of
right.
Is it kind of like a mutual objectification?
That's a tough question because, and you might hear me use this term quite often during this podcast, but I feel like there is a huge gray area with that because I believe it is objectifying because our society has made it become that way. However, I fully support sex workers.
Yeah, 100%.
And exotic dancers and burlesque dancers. It's tricky because, I think there's this whole notion of taking back what men in our society have taken from us. One thing being the possession of our sexuality.
Right.
And I think that sex workers now really have the confidence and the platform to own their sexuality and use it for what they want. And if that means monetizing it, I don't see that as, I do worry sometimes with some of the performances I do. Is this self-degrading? Is this anti-feminist because I'm objectifying myself? I have worried about that. But I think it all has to do with how we shift how society views those performances.
Right. Yeah, I can't speak from firsthand experience, but from the outside looking in, I would imagine that it wouldn't be anti-feminist because you're in control.
Sure.
So it's your decision.
Right.
So if you're doing it for your gain, your decision, then I mean that's almost as feminist as it gets.
Yeah, and that's what it boils down to is who has the control of it, right?
Yeah.
Not men in these situations.
Yeah, definitely not.
You could argue that no, they're still doing it because they, again, are monetizing from male desire, right? But again, it's
there's multiple arguments. They're also using men's desire against them. I don't want to say against them like this is a war, but they're using men's desire for monetary gain, which I mean, to me, that's gangster as hell. I mean, that's just gangster. Oh, you want to see my body? Okay, well, you got to pay. Okay, now that you paid, you can peek. Don't touch. You can peek. You know what I mean? Yes. Yeah, that's gangster. That's gangster right there, 100%. Yeah, we fully support sex workers on the show and in real life, not monetarily. I'm just here for moral support. I'm just here for.
You haven't been to a strip club recently? Well,
yeah, I go every weekend. I go and I get wings.
Oh.
But I don't do so the one that I go to, which I won't mention any names, but so we walk in, there's a wall.
Yeah.
All the action happens on the other side of that wall.
Okay.
If you turn right, there's a bar right there. I walk in, I turn right, I sit at that bar. And I don't even order. I do the same thing so often that they know. So they're like, oh, okay, we know exactly what.
So there's no performers in the bar section, or there are?
So I know the way this started, I knew a manager that worked there, and when she was bored, she would ask me, my friend Pun, and Cam, the one that's coming later to do the sports show. So the three of us, she would ask us to come down on like a random Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
And then she'd be like, yo, I'll give y'all some food on the house. Just come and hang out with me because I'm bored.
Okay.
So we would go down there and literally sit and watch the Cavs. And I'm not a sports guy, but those are my friends. And
Sure.
I like wings. So
there you go.
So I used to eat the mac and cheese bites, and this was before I cut out dairy. So yeah, I used to get mac and cheese bites and wings, and we would just go down there and hang out. And then she would inform the girls, like, listen, these aren't customers. These are just my friends.
I see.
Like if they approach you and want to dance or something, that's fine.
Sure.
But don't try to hustle them.
Right.
So that became a known thing that like when I'm there, I'm not there for a free show. I always have my back to, like I turn my back to where the stage area is because I respect the hustle. Like I respect the hustle. Yeah. I'm just not the hustle-y.
Okay.
So yeah, I go there and I get my wings. I walk in, I go to the bar. I sit at the end of the bar, I sit in the same seat every time.
Wow.
If somebody's in my seat, I wait for them to move and then I sit down. And
so you're a regular, just not for the typical reasons.
Not for the typical reasons. Yeah. Regular to the point. I don't pay to get in. Like I walk in, but I always tip the door girl.
It's not cheap to get in, is it?
No, it's like $30 or something like that. But I'd rather toss the door girl like 10 or 15 than, so yeah, and I tip my the bartender that brings my food out. So yeah, that's why I go for the wings. Literally, I go for the wings.
Wow.
And it can, like, you could walk in there and ask people, and they'll be like, "Yeah, Thaiger comes here for the wings." To the point that one time a friend of mine was there and was drunk, and I was driving him home, and I had to walk to like the edge of the wall, and I was looking for him. And one of the security guards was like, "Thaiger, what the hell are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm looking for my friend." He was like, "Well, go sit down. I'll go look for him."
He did that VIP treatment.
He just knows that I don't want to, you know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
And he was like, "Bro, I get it. Go sit down. I'll find him. Don't worry."
How
So,
funny.
when you were doing your tryouts and stuff, did you feel any type of discriminatory things towards you because you're an Asian American?
For auditions and in that industry specifically, at my age, I think I was not aware of that in the moment.
Okay.
There were other things and other experiences that already made me aware that I was not white and that I was
Right. different.
And that, I'll be honest, by the time that I was in acting classes, I already thought that I had to try harder to be recognized, to be seen as special, or to be seen as even attractive, objectively attractive, because of a lot of bullying that I experienced in grade school.
Right.
So it wasn't necessarily my experience in my acting classes or through those auditions that I felt different or out of place. But then again, going into high school, the more I faced that discrimination, I told myself and I believed that I was not good enough because I was Asian American to continue pursuing those things.
Now, the bullying in school, was that
Yeah.
just because you looked different than the people you went to school? I'm
Yes.
assuming you went to a predominantly white school?
I did. So I actually grew up in Independence, Ohio.
Oh, okay. I know where that's at.
Right. It's very close to here, I believe.
Yeah, it's very Caucasian.
Very Caucasian, predominantly white. And I can pinpoint the very first time that someone said something to me. They used the term chink towards me. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant.
And they even had the wrong race.
And that gets me too.
Yeah,
right?
like listen, if you're gonna be racist, at least get your races
Exactly.
correct.
And so I didn't know what it meant. So I went home and I asked my mom what it meant, and she explained to me it is a slang derogatory term for a Chinese person. And so it just really confused me because I'm like, wait a second, I'm Vietnamese. So
Yeah, like they couldn't have been talking to me.
right. But then, I go back to school the next day, and again, the same group of kids starts chanting it at me. Which is, when they start chanting a derogatory term at you, you clearly feel, isolated, you're called out. And then from there on, I was just hyper aware of things like that.
I mean, that'd do it. That'd definitely chanting it at you.
Chanting it. Yeah. I can play that back in my head all the time.
Is
Scary.
that something that, so I know you're an Asian rights activist. Did I say that right? Is that
Asian American activist?
Asian American activist? Is that something that also motivates you? That chanting, is that something that motivates you to do what you do?
Absolutely. Just the discrimination in general, and how I see myself evolving as an adult, and how my experiences as a child have totally molded my self-perception and my mental health. That is what fuels me. And it, I feel a lot of anger these days.
Okay.
And sometimes I feel like it's good fuel for my activism. Other times I feel like it's prohibiting me from getting the messages that I want to across in the correct way.
Okay. What is the correct way?
Right.
If there even is a correct way.
Well, from what I've experienced, I've been called a bitch before. I've been called dramatic. I've been gaslit a lot, because when I do choose to speak up and out, white people specifically, they see that as they just automatically get defensive about it. Right. So the right way to them would just be to not talk about it and to brush it off. That was what I was told my entire childhood. Just brush it off. They didn't mean it. It's just a joke.
Now, who was telling you this? Certainly not your parents, right?
Well, actually, teachers.
Okay.
My mom specifically did offer that advice.
And you told me that you were adopted, correct?
I was adopted by a white woman.
Okay.
Yeah. So, she would listen to me and she would try to understand, but, and I don't think there was no ill intent behind this reaction, but she would always ask questions like, well, did you do something to motivate that or provoke that? And then she would say, well, you just have to brush it off and you just have to take it as a joke, which I understand why that advice is given so often.
Yeah.
Because I feel like white people don't see, it's easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to say, just brush it off and just view it as a joke until you're experiencing it on a day-to-day basis.
Right. If you're not privy to the experience, it's a lot harder to understand. And when it's presented to you, it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow that the world is actually like that. Right. My mom used to say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Of course.
And whereas somebody might mean well, their advice in the end is actually kind of problematic.
Absolutely.
Because you're not being, like, your feelings are valid.
Right.
And how you were feeling is valid.
Exactly.
And what was done to you is wrong, and you being upset about that is valid. And, when you come to these people that, this is supposed to be your guidance, whether it's your mom, whether it's your teachers, you come to them for validation, like, hey, this is an issue and it needs validation. And when you don't get that, I can see how that would create a lot of pent up anger.
Absolutely.
Just don't break anything while you're over there right now.
Right. Yeah, right. No, I'm good right now. But another thing too that you hinted towards is intent versus impact. Because again, the intent can be great. You can have good intentions, but the actual impact and the outcome of those intentions, that's a totally different thing.
Yes.
So.
Night and day difference.
Right.
A lot of people will say, well, I was just joking but the intent of it might have been a joke, but the impact is completely different.
Yeah,
I mean, chanting at a child is like,
right. It's weird.
I mean, at the end of the day, children should be taught better because humans don't really develop empathy until they're about 18, 19.
Really?
Yeah, they don't develop empathy, which is one of the reasons why kids say so many hurtful things to each other.
Sure.
Because to them, they're just being kids.
Yeah.
Now, they can learn and they can learn to not treat people that way. So you can tell them, listen, this is wrong. Don't do that.
Right.
Especially chanting out. First of all, where the hell did they hear the term chink?
Their parents.
Exactly.
And I think about that too. Yeah.
Exactly. So what they were doing was a taught behavior.
Exactly.
Somebody in their family. And honestly, it takes one. It takes one kid whose parents don't like Asians or had an experience with Asians and started saying chink around the house. And I don't even like saying the word.
It sounds weird.
Started saying the C word around the house. Yeah. And then that kid takes it to school.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And he's got the new curse word. Right. So now he's the cool kid.
And this was in 6th grade. So
oh my God.
Keep that in mind.
Were these boys?
Actually, it was a group of girls. It was a girl who first presented that word to me. And then, the guy friends in that group joined in.
Okay.
And honestly, looking back at it, it would have happened eventually. It's just unfortunate that it happened so young.
Yeah.
Because to have that memory ingrained and then just be able to reflect on that and that's probably the only memory I have from 6th grade, honestly.
Really?
Is remembering that. Yeah. So.
Now, do you think that that's the only one, or is that the main one that stands out and it kind of overshadows all of the other?
It overshadows because it was a pivotal, life-changing moment where from then out, I just looked at myself in a completely different light. And I started doing things for other people and for validation from other people. Okay. And when you're that young, you want to be a kid and not worry about that stuff, right? But from then on, it was just...
I mean, you not even want to be. You shouldn't have to worry about that kind of stuff as a kid.
You shouldn't.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that makes you grow up really fast. And it kind of takes away from your childhood.
It does. I feel that way quite often where and again, that's where that anger and that resent, I think stems from is I do feel angry that I had to deal with that at a young age.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, very understandable. I would be angry as well.
Yeah.
I haven't dealt with, I guess I'm one of the lucky ones. I haven't dealt with nearly as much, quite frankly, hate as that. I've dealt with my share, but no one has ever been like chanting the N-word at me in school. Like that's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. And not even the correct race.
Exactly.
That's, again, if you're gonna be racist, at least have your ethnicities correct.
Yeah, be educated on
it.
Yeah,
because now you just look stupid.
Absolutely.
Not you, but them. No. Yeah, now they just look stupid.
Right.
Like you're chanting this at me. I'm supposed to be offended. You're not even talking to me right now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Oh man, I can only imagine. So, where has your activism taken you? Like in recent times, like what type of things? What type of things are important to you right now?
Sure.
I know we talked about Asian representation in cinema. Tell me more about that, actually.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about like some of the stats.
Yeah.
And like the percentages of.
Right.
Oh, you got that?
Which we pulled up. Yeah, I do have those.
Hold on, I think you got. Go ahead and hit the space bar real quick.
Okay, hold on. I'm leaving out the last one in this, I think. Okay,
there
we
go.
Okay, so this is an academic paper taken from UCLA.
Okay, let me pull it up.
Okay.
There we go.
This is the most up to date, I believe. I think they finished writing this in 2019.
Okay.
So this specific graph that we have here is taken from 2017 stats.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, just looking at the graph, you can see that this is so whites remained represented among all top film roles in 2017.
Right.
So you can see 77% of representation goes to white people. Yeah.
And how much goes to Asian?
3.4. And then what's more alarming to me is Native Americans, it's 0.4.
0.4.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, if I'm not mistaken, white people make up about 70% of the population in the United States. Personally, I find it kind of weird that a country that was once occupied by, our indigenous brothers and sisters is now 70% occupied by, those that invaded it, basically. As far as cinema goes, what was it? 3.4. 3.4%.
Yeah.
And that representation, that's counting for all of the stereotypical roles, all the so that's not even like that's not even all good roles. Like like for instance the black representation, that's counting slaves, servants.
Right.
With the Asian representation, we're counting martial arts instructors, the magical mystical Asian. So there's a thing in Hollywood called the magical mystical Negro, which is basically the black character who is there to support the white character. Usually a lot of times are literal magical Negroes, like the Bagger Vance or Bagger. It's a Will Smith.
Okay.
Will Smith played the role, and he was a magical Negro, or just like Green Mile. Like Green Mile, that was literally a magical Negro. So a lot of times the Asian character is there as a support system for the white lead,
right?
And is a lot of times just a throwaway character. Historically, it's kind of been that way up until the point that once Asians finally started allowing Asians to play Asian characters, whereas before it was a white actor in what we called yellowface. So once they started allowing Asians to play Asian characters, a lot of times they would have heavy accents. Right. When a lot of Asian Americans don't have accents. You know what I mean? Like, you grew up in Texas, basically, or you grew up in Independence,
I grew up in Ohio,
in Ohio, and then
yeah,
Texas. Yeah, so you don't sound Vietnamese at all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I've even heard of Asian actors going for trials for roles, for one role, and then they would say, "Well, hey, can you put on an Asian accent? We might have a different role for you."
Right.
To me, that's like mind blowing.
It is.
That's
disturbing, honestly.
Yeah. What do you think can be done? I mean, other than we're starting to get more, and I don't want to talk too much on this because this isn't this is literally your fight. I'm in your corner.
Of course.
This is your fight. We're starting to get a little bit more representation, but it's not coming. It's coming in the form of Asians making movies in America.
You're right.
So what can we do moving forward to try to gain more representation in, Hollywood or wherever?
Right. And I think that's the main question that I'm still trying to answer. I think about it and I go to casting.
Right.
And the predominantly white writers in Hollywood and the characters that they are portraying in films and TV. And I want to know why Asian Americans aren't being given more roles.
Right.
And I think that a lot of it has to do with our country's perception on what an Asian person can be.
Okay.
So if we talk about the model minority, and so you see Asian Americans being cast as successful doctors or lawyers or mega nerds or, often,
that happens a lot, actually.
It does, yeah. And that feeds the model minority myth that has supported the racism towards Black people in our history, right?
Right.
So white people came up with this idea that, well, we have this Asian American population in our country, and they're doing well and they're succeeding.
Right.
So we're not a racist country because we have this minority that is succeeding, but are they really in comparison, again, to white people?
Yes.
And
well,
so,
not yes, they are, but yes, I'm agreeing with you.
Right. And so we are just viewed as and typecasted as the successful crutches to white people and their privilege, right? So I think that it really just it really goes into how we're casting, the stories that we're writing about Asian Americans, and to throw out some names of things that we've all seen come out within the past few years. This is a heavy one that I don't know if we should talk about it, but Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, was that created by an Asian?
It was. So the book was written by an Asian American.
Okay.
And I believe that the producers and directors were also Asian American. However, my concern with that, now, just to preface this, I think that any progress right now for minorities is good progress. However, when you think about that title, Crazy Rich Asians, is that already stereotyping?
I think it is.
Right.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Do you think that was it the writer that came up with that title?
It was, because it was a book before it became a movie. Do you
think the writer knew that when they wrote it? And
I'm sure that a lot of thought was put into that title.
Okay.
And again, going back to intent versus impact, do I believe that overall the movie had a good impact on the representation of Asian Americans? For numbers and how many Asian Americans were represented in the movie, yes, I think the impact is great.
Okay.
However, I want to get to a place, and it's going to take a while to get there. I want to see a country where we don't have to include our race or stereotypes of our race to get recognition and to get in, to have people want to see the movie.
Yeah. Was that one of the first times that we had an Asian leading man in a big budget movie?
I don't think so, because I think about, and you can correct me because I'm not a big movie buff, but and I think you mentioned this in one of your podcasts, some Asian actors, Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Right. Has he been a lead or has he been a sidekick role in most of his films?
So his films, he's usually the lead, but those are his. He's doing that.
Okay.
Now the movies that get released over here, I think like the Rush Hour movies, he's kind of a sidekick in that.
Okay, and also again that whole
the
stereotyping or typecasting.
Both of them, both him and Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
It almost feels like they're leading sidekicks.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense whatsoever.
Does. Yeah.
And then obviously once the first one took off, they made more. And then they gave Jackie Chan more movies here, like was it The Tuxedo, and but even in those, it's, I don't know, it just feels weird.
It does.
They didn't allow him to make the movies the way that he makes them. They had other people come in to direct the action sequences, and it's like, why can't this dude's been doing this for 30 years?
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's good at it. Hollywood has stolen a lot of his ideas, actually. Right. So why can't he direct this at least direct the action the way that he wants to direct it? Why are you bringing in these stunt coordinators?
I also have to pose this idea too. In those movies specifically, they're both kind of these sidekick roles that join together, right? We don't view those roles. We never viewed Jackie Chan in what's the word? He's not your typical male lead heartthrob.
Yeah.
Right?
He's got a big nose.
Yeah, right. I
mean, he talks about it. He talks about his nose all the time.
Yeah, but it's weird to see that because when I see a white film, a rom-com, there's always this heartthrob male lead.
Yes.
And then Asian American men specifically are there's the whole people making fun of their size,
their
right?
endowment, if you will.
Yeah. And so I think it's just terrible that that's the stereotypes that our country has created. And so it corners you to those roles. And then Crazy Rich Asians was, I believe, from what I've seen, one of the first films where they're seen in an attractive light.
Right.
So I think that's great.
As far as film goes, yes. I think as far as like Asian men being seen as attractive, I kind of think, and I could be way wrong here, but I kind of think it started with Glenn from The Walking Dead.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, I feel previously. Like he was one, as far as in America, I feel like he was one of the first like obviously women were pining after Bruce Lee. But as far as like,
I didn't know
yeah. But in recent times, on television at least, I feel like up until Glenn, and oh man, I can't think of that actor's name. Why can't I think? Could you look that up for me real quick, if you wouldn't mind?
It's funny, I've actually never watched Walking Dead.
You've never watched The Walking Dead?
I have not.
Really? Oh my goodness. What do you watch?
Oh, not action-wise.
No, what do you watch in general? Do you watch like a lot of musicals or?
I used to. Right now, I watch a lot of sitcoms on Netflix, very lighthearted stuff. I do enjoy documentaries, like one of the recent ones.
I love documentaries.
Yeah, Hip Hop Evolution.
Oh yeah,
on Netflix, amazing.
Yes.
Everyone needs to watch it. Let's see. I'm looking up the actor Steven Yeun.
Okay, yeah. Steven.
See, and that just goes to show we didn't even know his name.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, I should have known it because I'm a fan.
Sure.
And he's done other movies since then, but after The Walking Dead, like I haven't seen him really in Hollywood all like that. And I kind of feel like that's a shame because he's a great actor. He should get a lot more roles. But yeah, until Steven, people weren't really checking for Asian guys like that. Now they've always, for better or for worse, and I feel like mostly more for worse, Asian women have always been kind of considered attractive or a sex symbol, but that also has a negative connotation to it.
It does, because we talked about the fetishization
of Asian women. Right. And there's a lot of people that fetishize Asian women. Mm-hmm. I hope I'm saying that word right.
I know it's a hard one.
it's kind of tricky to say. Mm-hmm. And then they feel like, oh well, I'm not racist. I love Asian women. I'm not racist. And it's like, you're not. You don't love the people. Mm-hmm. You want to have sex with them. Like, there's a difference. That's true. There's slave owners that had sex with their slaves.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean they weren't racist. Exactly. You know what I mean? There's people that went to, like your background in Vietnam. There's people that went over there in the Vietnam War and came back with half Vietnamese kids because they were over there raping Vietnamese women. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean that you're not racist. That doesn't mean that you view them as, you're not viewing them as an equal.
No.
At that point, when you're fetishizing something, you're not viewing it as an equal. You're viewing it as it has a purpose.
Exactly.
Which is the same way people view slaves, servants,
right.
people that are beneath them. They have a purpose. Yeah. You tolerate them because they have a purpose to you.
Right.
And once that purpose is served, once you bust your nut, you're like, okay, well,
right.
So.
Well, speaking on that, if we want to talk about the porn industry.
Okay, I thought you were about to be like, speaking on busting nuts.
Well, I mean, it all ties in. You see the Asian category on porn sites, right? Yes. And that just is insane to me because it definitely feels racist, in my opinion.
100%.
Right. And then, it just seeps into a lot of other industries because a lot of Asian female characters that I've seen have been sexualized. Mm-hmm. And that, I don't want to be known as a sex symbol or an object like that.
Right.
Because there's... I'm a multi-dimensional human being.
Yes.
And I just feel like it's really unfair for that to be a thing. And that is definitely exists. So
with as many dimensions as you have, you being an Asian female shouldn't be the thing that, or the only thing that validates you.
Right.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to.
No,
I'm just trying to make sure I understand what you're.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you do. I mean, I didn't even know that you were an actor until you just told me. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew you sang. Like, I knew that. Mm-hmm. At that point, that's all I needed to know. You could have walked in here and been Chewbacca. I don't care. Like, she could sing. So, but yeah, you man, yeah, having that as like. That's the thing that people like focus in on. Oh, she's sexy because she's Asian.
Right.
And is it because Asian women stereotypically are considered like docile or submissive? I feel like a lot of times that's the role that a lot of Asian women get cast in.
Absolutely.
As like this docile, timid, submissive.
Right.
Unless it's an action movie. And then she's kicking ass. But then
in an action movie, she's exotic.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. 100%. Unless it's a Jackie Chan film.
Okay.
Then it's a whole different cup of tea. Then she whoops his ass most of the movie. Or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. One of my favorite movies. I feel like in cinema, American cinema, because that's just where we're at. We're in America. A lot of times Asian women get cast as the docile, submissive, quiet, or housekeeper, or like the cook,
right?
Or any of these other stereotypes. The doctor, as you mentioned a lot.
And that's not to say it isn't improving, but
do you see a lot of Asian women doctors in cinema, or is that usually the men?
I see it. I see men most often. However, and this is something else I wanted to talk about, awards in Hollywood.
Okay.
Sandra Oh, do you know who that is? She's in Grey's Anatomy.
Okay, yes, okay. I know who that is, yes.
I believe, and I should probably fact check myself for this, I think that she was recently nominated for an Emmy, but she was the first female Asian character to be nominated for an Emmy.
Really?
Yeah, but I want to fact check that.
Yeah, feel free. Feel free. That's what the laptop is there for.
Okay, so for her role in Grey's Anatomy, she earned a Golden Globe, 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and then 5 nominations. But this is within recent years, which is crazy to me, because how has it taken that long for a female Asian American lead to be nominated for those categories?
Well, how not even nominated? How long did it take to get a female American lead?
Yeah.
Like all my phones went off at the same time.
He's a busy man.
A little bit, apparently. Let me mute that. There we go. So yeah, how long did it take to get female Asian American leads in TV? Have we had, other than Crazy Rich Asians, have we had any female Asian American leads in cinema? In cinema,
okay, so another movie we can talk about that premiered on Netflix is To All the Boys I've Loved Before, with an actress named Lana Condor.
I've seen the trailer for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should watch it. It's interesting to watch.
It does seem really interesting, and it's actually on my list is crazy right now. Like I'm going through it, I'm watching. It's actually on my list. And I know a lot of people say that, but literally everything I put on my list, I watch.
I believe you.
It's just I have to get to it.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'll make that. I'll watch that, because we're gonna have you in on one of the TEM Thursdays.
Yes.
So I'll make sure I watch that.
Okay, cool.
Before I have you on, and then we can talk about it when you come on.
Yeah.
So she's the lead in that.
She is the lead, and what's great about it is that, well, one, the title doesn't make mention to her race at all.
Right.
And secondly, her culture and her background isn't in the forefront of the movie. It's not the big highlight of the movie.
Yes.
They do touch on it in a really sweet scene where her white father is cooking them, I believe, and I'm fact check me if I'm incorrect, a Korean meal.
Okay.
And I thought that was so neat because it was just a small detail in the background, just to give you insight as to what her culture was.
Yeah.
And it was her role was that she was in love with a boy in high school.
Right. Okay.
And I just think it's neat to see a female lead in a Netflix rom-com like that.
Wait, is that the one where she's in love with a boy? Wasn't there another? Oh no, that's a whole different movie I'm thinking of, where she starts writing the notes for the guy.
No, that's the same one.
Same one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the quick background on it is she, over the years, she falls in love with numerous boys in school.
Yeah.
And she writes letters to all of them, and she stores them in her room.
Gotcha.
And then eventually, somehow those letters get mailed out, and all of these boys read these love letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the start of the movie.
Man,
but
that's just the beginning.
all right. Yeah.
That's just scratching the surface.
Yeah. But it's neat to see a female Asian American lead cast in that light. And I think they're great stepping stones towards a more diverse Hollywood. And so what I would again like to see though is multidimensional Asian American leads where it's not even focused on romance.
Yeah.
Where
just a Asian American lead,
right,
or even just an Asian lead.
Yeah.
Now, is it Didn't mean to cut you off. Is it problematic when we do have Asian characters and like the focus? You touched on this a minute ago. Like the focus of their character or character arc is always heavily to do with the Asian culture.
Sure.
Like their parents that just, their parents that want to set up an arranged marriage,
right,
or, they're in love with this person, but because of their culture, this is an issue. Is that problematic?
I don't know if I would use the word problematic. However, when the sole focus of the plot is based on those cultural factors,
right,
I think it leads us to continue stereotyping what we view, Black, Indigenous people of color to be. So you mentioned the whole arranged marriage, right?
Yeah.
That is like a long time story plot to a lot of sitcoms and films. You see that, and it's not just focused on Asian American culture Indian culture, right? Because that's
Right,
where,
right.
you know, and there's even a Netflix show where there's an Indian matchmaker. And
Really?
she's orchestrating these arranged marriages or dating scenarios.
Okay.
So I don't think that's necessarily bad because you're getting insight into actual things that are occurring within different cultures.
Okay.
But again, if it's overdone to the point where anytime you see an Asian actor come onto the screen, you think, oh, they're going to be in an arranged marriage, or they're going to be a doctor, or they're going to be this and that. That's where it can get.
Then it becomes an issue.
Right. Exactly.
So we need to get to the point to where when you see an Asian, I mean, well, any race other than white, but right now we're talking about Asian
Exactly.
representation. So when you see an Asian in cinema or in a movie, you're not automatically going, okay, this is what this is. Or if you are automatically doing that, they subvert that and they say they zig when we zag.
Exactly.
So it just being a person, actually.
Right. Just being a normal human being.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of times in cinema, white people get to be just a person.
Exactly.
And
they're celebrated for that too.
Yeah. And other races have to be, like a thing.
Right.
You're
or a
this,
representation
or you're that.
of something.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
And we need to get past that. And, here's the thing. It's a weird thing because part of me, I understand why. Part of me, seeing as though 70% of the United States population is Caucasian. So that's what they consider. That's what they think sells. That's what they say. So white people sell.
Of course.
Which is why, I mean, honestly, when you talk about white leading men, there's tons of them. You can count the white leading men on like one hand. I mean, you can count the black leading men on one hand.
Right.
You don't even need a whole hand to count the Asian leading men or the Hispanic lead. Honestly, you could probably count the black, Asian, Spanish, and indigenous leading men.
Yeah.
Probably it'd take you a hand and a half.
Yeah. At least the mainstream.
Yeah.
Right?
We're talking mainstream.
Exactly. Yeah.
So probably a hand and a half. You might need two hands, but depending on the day, you probably won't. You know what I mean? And now with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, you probably don't need two hands.
Yeah.
So, but if you start rattling off white leading men in the mainstream, like there's a gang of them. There's a whole bunch of them, and some of them, are like in their 50s. It's like, these are the leading dudes.
Right, yeah.
Now, I'm not ageist at all.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, as long as you can do the job, do the job.
But let's make space.
Yeah,
for everyone,
let's create some space and start giving some of these roles to other people.
Right.
Let's talk about like the whitewashing because this recently has been happening a lot. The whitewashing of, I don't want to say historically, but like known Asian characters, but once they get brought to cinema, like they get whitewashed. The big one of note recently is Ghost in the Shell.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, with Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson.
Which I haven't seen.
Yeah, playing the main character.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, are you interested in seeing it? I don't want to spoil it for you if you're interested in seeing it.
No, feel free to spoil it.
So they pull a stunt.
Okay.
So it could have been like, okay, this is what they're doing. They're making this for a white audience. Like, okay. But then like they pull a stunt where you get her backstory.
Okay.
And she was an Asian woman.
Oh no.
And then I believe she gets killed. And then they put her mind into this like white body. Like what?
Oh.
Why did you even did you even
Weird.
do that? Like, yeah,
Wow.
so yeah, that kind of rubs some people the wrong way.
That sounds very problematic.
Yeah. And all of the Asian characters were kind of background characters, or just basically they were props.
Of course.
Kind of like what happens with a lot of that movie Gods of Egypt.
Okay.
There was like one person of color. It was actually Chadwick Boseman.
Oh.
But everybody else was white. And then there was like the only people of color were like these background like props. So it seems like it also happens with Asian characters. They'll get whitewashed. What was the one that you were going to bring up?
Oh, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes. I was gonna get to that one, but yes, 100%.
Well, because they took it to, I don't know what year the film came out. It was M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan, yeah.
Yeah. And he completely whitewashed it.
Oh, 100%.
Because the original writers of Avatar: The Last Airbender, they were pulling inspiration from indigenous, and people of color, Asian cultures. And then when it was taken to the big screen, and they've spoken about this, they didn't have directive control over the casting of that. And it was,
honestly, I don't think M. Night Shyamalan did either.
You don't think so?
I don't think he did.
Interesting.
Because he did cast like the only Asians that were in it were the Indian people,
right? Yeah,
and they were all basically villains.
Yes, and that was a whole nother argument.
I feel like him being, he's Indian, yes,
or
he's so I feel like, now maybe I'm just being sympathetic, but I feel like he wouldn't necessarily do that without like studio interference.
Sure,
because a lot of times the problem with Hollywood is the studios. So a lot of, directors, writers, things like that will want to cast other people, but then the studios step in and they'll say, well, this isn't viable.
And the directors aren't doing the casting.
Yeah, they're not doing the casting. Yeah,
exactly.
And a lot of times studios step in and they'll say, well, we need star power on this.
Right.
It's a great story, but we need a star in the leading role. We need somebody who's popular in the leading role,
who's
so we can
sell in that role.
So that we can maximize our gains or maximize our profits, which becomes an issue because now you're taking away from the art of it.
Yes.
But getting back to what we were talking about, that movie was heavily whitewashed, and the Asians that were in it were the bad guys.
Yeah, and how interesting is that they were cast in that light?
Exactly, and with the great white savior.
Yeah, and also update on Avatar: The Last Airbender. They were bringing it back to Netflix as a live action series.
Really?
Where the original writers, and I can't say their names, but they had directive control, and recently they announced that they've stepped down from that live action series because because their vision, and I know what they're talking about. They're talking about the casting and the representation of different cultures that are presented in the show are not being met by whoever is doing the casting. And again, and as you stated, there's so many people that go into making the decisions about the casting and the artistic, factors. And so they didn't feel they had any control. And I do believe that they fear that it's going to be whitewashed again. So they stepped down.
I mean, that might have been a smart move just for their integrity.
So they're not attached to that because they originally were going to have open casting calls, which I was really interested in because I grew up watching The Airbender. And,
I mean, haven't we all?
Yeah. And I would love to be cast in something like that. And, now that they've stepped down, it's like, I don't know if I have hope for that at this point.
Kind of don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I you know what? Hearing that they stepped down, because I did have hopes for it. Yeah. I did have hopes that we were going to get an actual good representation of the show. And now hearing that they stepped down,
yep.
I guess,
isn't it sad? Yeah.
Guess that puts the kibosh on that one.
Yep, that's what happens.
So how often, you said that you've done have you done any tryouts for anything recently or done any reads for anything recently?
Recently, no. I was planning on auditioning for The Airbender live action, and I still will. I just don't think I'll go into it with as much confidence because of the information we now have.
Right.
Things that I've been focusing on have been the singing and live performance, which is so before the pandemic hit, I was in Austin, Texas. I told you this, working for South by Southwest.
Yeah.
If anyone doesn't know what South by Southwest is, it is basically a big conference and music festival that brings in people from all over the world.
It's really big in the tech world too.
It is. Yeah. So to share new technology, new products, new music. And I was excited because the job I had there was really going to open a lot of doors for me to network within the music and live event industries.
Right.
So after South by Southwest, what I wanted to do is pave my way towards working, even if it was just production or behind the scenes with live music events. That's where I wanted to be. So then once the pandemic hit, the event was canceled. And for Austin, Texas, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Because that has been around for the past 37 years.
Really?
So this is the first time in those 37 years that this event did not happen. So think about all of the money that's not being brought into the city, and specifically not being brought into music events. And venues and all of those artists that are losing that platform to showcase their talent. And again, more specifically, people of color that were going to use that platform to showcase their talents. So that is something that I'm focusing on right now, is finding my voice and my platform as an artist. And when you first mentioned to me, you said, let's make some music, you probably noticed I was shying away from it.
A little bit.
And that's because I'm not fully confident in myself as a songwriter and an artist. I don't have a discog of things that I've done. And right now it's really, and I'm 24, so I feel behind in a way, but I'm really trying to gain that confidence to become the artist that I want to be and to put out the music that I want to put out.
Right. What type of stuff do you see yourself making? Like, what type of stuff do you want to make?
I would love to make pop, R&B, soul music, a mixture of that. That is what I'm passionate about. I feel like I grew up on a lot of R&B and pop. And so that's the kind of music that I would enjoy putting out.
Speaking on music, how do you feel about the representation, the Asian representation in music?
Okay. Well, let me ask you this question. Can you name a female Asian pop star?
Not one. That's literally why I was asking. Not one.
Yeah.
I don't even think I can name a male one.
Yeah. So there you go. It seems like there is very little representation. And okay. So Aquafina is a rapper, but she is known for her role in I believe it was, I don't want to be wrong, I think she was in Crazy Rich Asians.
Okay.
And I also,
I think she was
in
as well,
Crazy Rich Asians. She also came out with a few different films within the past few years.
I think doesn't she have a TV show?
Does she now?
Right now? I think so.
See, again, I just think it's so funny that you have to put a lot of thought into it, because it's not like, it's just not as obvious as the white actors that
there's so few that
right. You really have to think about it sometimes.
Like it almost becomes like a passing thought, because
exactly. Yeah.
And it's another thing about it is that when you see it, you're like, oh, that's not going to make it more than a season.
Right. Yeah.
And not because it's a bad show at all whatsoever, just because it's not going to get the support
the market and exactly. But she is a rapper, so I know, and she started off rapping, I believe.
I mean, we have a few Asian rappers. We have a few Asian rappers, but as far as like singing,
right?
I don't know of any Asian R&B singers.
At least they're not mainstream.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably find them on SoundCloud, or if you do a deep dive on YouTube, I'm sure you can find them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need some in the mainstream. We need that. We need that it's like it's needed. Not just a want. Like it's needed. Yeah. It's something that needs to happen.
It's long overdue at this point.
I feel like Asian kids need someone to, so that they can say, well, that's what I want to do.
And I can do it.
Yeah, and I can do it. Man, that's like, I thought about it and I was like, well, maybe you knew something I didn't know. And then when you were like, have you ever heard of one?
Right.
Like, nope, not at all. Oh, man. So what do you account that to? Do you account that to the market as well?
Absolutely. And additionally, K-pop has become very popular in the States, right? Yeah. So people are tuning in, and there's an appeal there to K-pop, but that is a very specific niche genre of music, right? Again, I don't consider that mainstream in comparison to all of the other genres of music in the States. And just to see an Asian American face to pop music, or even, because this is one of my pipe dreams, I would love to be the first Asian American singer to perform at the Grand Ole Opry.
Whoa.
In Tennessee. Think about that. Yeah.
Like a Asian American country singer?
Right. And I grew up on country too. So I have an appreciation for country music.
I mean, being in the great state of Texas, you kind of,
yeah.
man, I feel like people's heads would explode.
I believe it too. And so I'm like, I've been brainstorming about how I'm going to get to that point. Because I think
it can happen.
I do
think
too.
It can happen. We have there's some black country stars.
Yes.
There's like a couple, maybe 3, 4. Right. So the door is now it's creaking open. It's creaking open. It's taking its time.
It is.
It's a heavy ass door, so it's taking its time, but it's starting to open a little bit. Unless they slam it shut, you never know.
Right.
I mean, the country community is pretty protective over their music. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, they might try to slam it shut on you.
Well, you remember when Taylor Swift went from country to pop, and they went crazy, and it was this big scandal.
Oh, they were so pissed off.
Yeah.
How do you feel about cultural appropriation when it comes to Asian culture? I mean, obviously it's a thing. Clearly it's a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer of there's a difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation.
Right. Or I say celebration.
Yeah. Cultural celebration.
You're right.
So, I feel like, in my experience, people wearing Asian culture as a costume or as a fashion statement. To me, that's cultural appropriation. Like, you don't know nothing about it. You don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to, I was talking to some friends the other day, and we were talking about cultural appropriation. And I was like, well, is it cultural appropriation or is it cultural appreciation? They asked me the difference. And I go, I'll give you an example. When it comes to cornrows, right? Okay. So you have people that will put cornrows in their hair and then call it something else. So when you have, our Caucasian brothers and sisters, or mainly the Caucasian women, put cornrows in their hair, but then call them boxer braids.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then start normalizing the term boxer braids.
Kylie Jenner was a face to that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So to me, that's cultural appropriation, because you're taking something and you're completely disregarding the person that invented it.
Right, right.
So the person that created it usually gets to say what it's called. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
So if this person created this and called it cornrows, then who are you to then turn around and say, no, this is what it's going to be called from now on, and we're taking this, and this is what we're. To me, that's appropriation.
Yeah.
Same thing with. Have you ever heard? You had to have heard of chopped and screwed music.
I actually haven't.
You haven't? Oh, that's if I'm not mistaken, that's a Texas thing. I think DJ Screw.
Okay.
I believe he's from Houston.
Okay.
Basically, he would take songs, slow them down, so they're better to listen to when you're high. I'm sure I'm butchering that.
Okay.
But he created this form of music called Chopped and Screwed.
Okay.
Well, recently, a few videos have come out, and they're calling the music, it's like slowed and something. It's like slowed and something else. And they're saying it was created by these couple of white DJs / producers. And it's like, that's cultural appropriation right there. It's not appreciation. You're literally stealing it. You're disregarding the person that created it.
The history behind it.
Yeah, the history behind it.
Yeah.
And this has been a thing for 20, 30 years.
Okay.
It's been around.
Wow.
So it's not like this is a new thing. So they're taking it and they're saying, okay, well, these are the people that created it.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
That's clear appropriation.
So that's clear appropriation. I feel like that same thing happens in Asian culture, where it'll take like an outfit, right?
Yes.
That in Asia, like if you go to Vietnam, this like the hats.
The conicals.
Yes. Is that what they're called?
They are.
Cost about $1 something in Vietnam.
They do.
You know what I mean? 50 cents in Vietnam.
Yeah.
They bring them over here and sell them for like $30.
Right,
you know what I mean? And it becomes like a hipster fashion, and they don't even know like the history of it or where it came from.
Right.
To me, that is more appropriation than appreciation.
Well, here's the thing for me is that I don't need you to necessarily know all of the history behind it.
Right.
However, the fact that white people specifically are monetizing that culture and they're gaining so much traction from that and following, that's what upsets me.
Yes.
And then there's a few different pieces of appropriation or examples of appropriation that we can talk about. You mentioned the clothing. So kimonos in the past few years have been a big one, where big name brands have been selling kimonos like crazy.
Really?
Because now I think that they've taken the kimono and they've they've altered it to be a more casual, relaxed fit of like a cardigan. It's their variation of a cardigan. However, when you see them, you can definitely tell the Asian influence is there.
Yeah.
And now you see a bunch of girls wearing these, you know, very ornate, colorful kimonos. Now, that didn't ever really upset me. However, there is a brand that I recently stumbled upon that came out with, it was an Asian-inspired dress. It had a slit. It was very short. And they had a model in the dress, and we talked about this a little bit. She was pulling the skin around her eyes up.
Oh,
and this is the fox eye trend.
The fox eye thing
that we started talking about.
I had saw something about that, and I messaged you, and I was like, "Is this a real thing, or is this just a meme?" So it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. And to preface this, because some people, there is a big argument that the fox eye trend is just people doing cat eye eyeliner or makeup.
Okay.
And my argument for this is that, yes, so today, and you don't have to zoom in or anything, I have cat eyeliner on.
Right.
And basically what cat eyeliner is, it's just a little wing.
I like how you said I don't have to zoom in like I'm that technologically advanced right now. Like,
well, hey, this is a cool setup. So, but I do cat eyeliner, right?
Right.
But it is the cat eyeliner or the excessive cat eyeliner and the excessive wing paired with the action of taking your hands up around your face like this and pretty heavily pulling back that skin around your eyes.
Yeah.
That's what the fox eye trend is. And it's something that in grade school, it wasn't called that. It was just people coming up to me, pulling back that skin to where their eyes were closed and imitating Asian languages and noises in front of me and asking me if I could see in widescreen. Or
they ask you that?
They would ask me that in real life, yeah. Or there would be a photo posted of me online on Facebook, and some of the guys in my grade would comment, "Is someone blinking?" And that at first went over my head. I didn't know what that meant. But then it was explained to me that they were poking fun at the fact that sometimes when I smile, my eyes look closed, right?
Yeah.
So the fox eye trend now...
When Punch smiles, his eyes look closed too, and he's not Asian at all.
Yeah, he's... Right, exactly. So it has nothing to do...
He's just got a round face.
Right, there you go. We're throwing some shade at Pun right now. Sorry, I haven't even met you and we're already talking shit.
He's all right.
Okay, well, anyways, so, the fox eye trend now, so I follow an Asian American model. Her name is Minami Giselle.
Right.
Her manager, who is New York based as well, his name is Kevin Chung.
Okay.
And he actually, I learned about how heavily of an influence this has on the fashion industry right now from him, because he's an activist who speaks up and out against the appropriation of and discrimination of Asian Americans. And so if you go to his Instagram, he has a long thread and story about accounts of this fox eye trend.
What's his Instagram? I will put it up.
Find that for you.
Yes, please do.
It is Kevin K. Chung.
K-C-H-U-N?
G. Correct.
All right. Kevin K. Chung. All right.
In his bio, he is a talent manager. So
let me see if I can show this. Hold on. Is this correct right here?
That is correct. Yep.
Wait, am I off?
There you go. Perfect.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you wanna see that, go there. Kevin K. Chung.
And he is very informative about the history of the fox eye trend. It's funny because we've kind of we've gotten together through social media. I haven't met him in person ever, but if he sees this fox eye trend on anyone's page, he will tag me so that I can go in and I have a template that just gives you a brief rundown of how it supports the oppression and discrimination of Asian Americans.
Right.
And I'll leave that there to just let them know, hey, what you're doing is you're culturally appropriating a minority group, and you are profiting from their history of oppression.
Right.
And so, again, go to his page for a lot of in-depth information surrounding the history. But it is, I told my friend this the other day. It makes me angry because I think about, if I even just got a small cut of the money that these white influencers are making from
influencers.
In quotes, influencers, right. But, it is dangerous because they do influence people.
They do.
And they do have a following. And I see that in the numbers, but in a negative way. And I think it can be detrimental to, again, the oppression and discrimination of any minority when white people are profiting off of it. Like you said, the boxer braids.
Yes.
Right? Kylie Jenner is a billionaire.
Yes.
And
has millions of followers. And so if she says that's what this is, then it becomes that thing.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Because that's how impactful her influence is on people.
It's basically stealing someone's culture.
Right.
It's the whitewashing of a culture.
Yeah, it is.
And one of the reasons that we speak on this here in the United States, because I know a lot of people listening or watching might think, man, they're really shitting on white people. We're not necessarily shitting on white people, but this is something that happens here a lot.
Yes.
Because of the fact that it's 70%. White people make up the majority of the United States population.
Right.
So if something gets whitewashed, it disappears.
It does.
Especially here. If it becomes a quote unquote white thing, it completely disappears from the culture that originated it. You know what I mean?
You're erasing our history, our culture, our experiences.
White people have damn near all but taken tacos. Like when you really think about it, like most of the taco places that I go to, there's not really a lot of Mexicans in Ohio. We're pretty far up north. There's not a lot here. So, but there's a ton of taco places.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like you can't, especially here in Lakewood, I can't go more than I can't walk for more than 5 minutes without hitting a place that serves tacos.
But who is it owned by?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, Taco Bell.
Oh,
that was started by a white dude. I think his name is Richard Bell.
Of course. Yeah.
The hard shell taco was created by a white guy.
I didn't know that.
There's no hard tacos in Mexico.
Wow.
like actual tacos, they're soft. There's no.
Right.
Yeah, he did it because it was laziness is what it is. He did it because it was easier to put the fillings and stuff in there.
Oh, because it would stay in and it wouldn't fall out.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then
Crazy.
They tried to open one in Mexico and it failed because they were like,
this isn't authentic. Why would I want this?
Dude, it costs us 10 cents to make a taco. Why are we going to pay $1?
Yeah.
But the reason why this is an issue is because if things get whitewashed, if there's no representation, then they will literally disappear. And once cultures start disappearing, you lose out on so much history.
You do.
Like so much history will get lost if just cultures disappear. I know there's people that say like eventually we're all just going to kind of be one race.
I've heard that. Yeah.
I'm fine with that. But we need to hold on to the cultures.
Yeah.
Fuck the races. If we're all one race, fine, whatever.
Right.
But we need to hold on to cultures because cultures speak more to history than our actual race does.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you go back far enough, all of us look different. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm not a fan of cultural appropriation at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
Or even wearing someone's history as a costume or as a fashion statement.
Yeah.
I think I did the eye thing like one time when I was a kid, and my mom slapped the giddy up shit out of me.
Did she? Go mom.
Oh yeah, for sure. My dad wasn't happy about it either. He's like, yo, what are you doing?
Right.
And you know, I was a kid. I didn't know, but I was taught.
Right. You were taught by someone.
And I was like, okay. And I didn't do it again after that.
Right.
Like definitely not after that.
Yeah. And I think the reason we talk about this is so that we can educate people, because back then you weren't watching a podcast about why it's wrong to do that, right? Yeah. So the education is definitely important, and to be open to that education.
They say you can't. They say you can't call people stupid if they've never been taught.
Okay, there you go.
And then and like we talked about before, I prefer stupidity over ignorance.
Yeah.
Ignorance feels more active.
Right, like it's a choice.
Yeah. Stupidity, I can teach you, you can learn, and you can change.
But then after, once you're given that education, what you do with it determines. Are you being ignorant?
I feel like a lot, and especially in recent time, a lot of Asian culture is starting to, well, in the Black community, Asian culture has always been a thing. I'm not sure.
Let's talk about Wu-Tang for a second.
Yeah. Even before that.
Oh, yeah.
So like if you look at old videos and stuff from New York, Black people are wearing like kung fu outfits. They're wearing the fake ass kung fu shoes.
Right.
And it wasn't a situation where it was, so the reason why that didn't feel like appropriation as opposed to appreciation is because it was never once tried to be depicted as a Black thing.
Sure.
It was very well known that it was Asian culture, and Black people loved Asian culture.
Absolutely. They celebrated it.
Yes. And we would go to, and I mean, I say this and where it would be problematic now, but we would go to watch like kung fu movies all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's just because that's what we could get.
Yeah.
If we were getting Asian dramas and things like that, we probably would have went to see those as well. But what we could get
was the,
as far as like, Asian cinema, what we could get was Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, the Shaw Brothers, things like that. And so we would see that and we're like, oh my God, that is amazing. That culture is amazing. And so, you know, the Black community started incorporating that into hip hop culture.
Right.
And Wu-Tang Clan never once tried to say they made up.
No.
I mean, hell, they put the samples from the movies in their songs.
Exactly. Yeah.
They had a Shaolin monk that they, you know, that they would learn from and would just teach them, not even martial arts, just philosophy.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
so it's definitely an appreciation.
And they studied the culture too.
Exactly. Yes. And that's not to say that there's no white people that do that. There's plenty of white people that do that. Now, there's 6 times the amount of white people than there are Black. And I think there's something like 20 or 30 times the amount of white people in America than there are Asian. So, yes, there's a ton of Caucasian people that practice cultural appreciation.
Absolutely.
And there's fewer that practice cultural appropriation. But when you have that many more times the people, that's a very large number of people that practice cultural appropriation and fetishizing of Asian culture, whether it be the food, whether it be the women, whether it be the clothing.
Right.
And a lot of the clothing isn't even like, doesn't even have a positive background, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh no.
Like the geisha outfits. Like, if I'm not mistaken, being a geisha girl wasn't like the great. It wasn't awesome.
Sure. Yeah. There's a sexist history behind a lot of the Asian garb. And costuming.
Yeah. So it's like you're wearing these things and you're fetishizing.
Right.
And, you know, even like during Halloween, I see a lot of women during Halloween wearing like a sexy Asian outfit.
Exactly,
and I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what the hell's going on? This feels disgusting.
It does. And I do wonder, like, at that point, because I see adults doing that, you know, don't you put that costume on and then look in the mirror and then question it? Like, hey, is this going to be offensive or am I doing something wrong?
That's where the ignorance comes into play.
Exactly.
They just ignore it.
It just astounds me though, because I can't relate.
I had a ex-girlfriend of mine one time. She had bought, I didn't know she bought it, but she had bought an Asian outfit, quote unquote sexy Asian outfit.
Right.
And then like she put it on and we were going out to eat, and I think we were going to an Asian restaurant, or it might have been like an Asian fusion restaurant, right?
Interesting.
So I go to pick her up, and she has this outfit on, and I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah,
and she's like, "What? Doesn't it look good?" And I'm like, "Okay, listen. The question isn't whether it looks good.
Right.
Obviously, if you're attracted to someone, almost anything they put on is going to look good.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm dating somebody, they could walk out covered in spiders. I'm gonna be like, "You look great." The question is, should you be wearing that?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, is this
right?
This is just a costume to you. This has so much more meaning, you know, or, you know, if she's dressed like a geisha, like, yo, they were basically indentured servants. They were basically sex slaves. You know what I mean? They had to wrap their feet up so they wouldn't grow.
Right,
like there's a lot of pain and suffering behind that. So why would you want to Why would you want to fetishize
Well,
that?
it's because of how, you know, the westernized version of that, how we painted the narrative, the erasure of the actual history and culture behind that.
Yes.
That's
that's what happens when you appropriate something, you take positive.
Right.
And then you just do away with forget the negative, forget all that stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, ripped up clothing, right?
Okay.
Ripped up clothing to me, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
is appropriation of, when you see like homeless people, sometimes their clothes are a little ragged and things like that.
Interesting. Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that this is the background of it.
Sure,
But
sure.
to me,
Yeah.
it's like making a costume out of suffering. I rarely
Sure.
wear they're called distressed. Yeah, I rarely wear distressed
Well,
stuff.
the phrase, "Oh, I'm dressed like a hobo today."
Yeah,
that always rubbed me the
yeah.
wrong way.
I'm bumming it right now.
Right,
like,
right.
like, wait, what do you mean, dude? You
Yeah.
have a home. You are not. You're
Yeah.
not bumming anything. And first of all, a lot of these people aren't bums.
Right.
They're down on their luck right now. Like, a bum is just a lazy individual.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I have a question then too, because I think what a lot of white people like to do nowadays
Mm-hmm.
is if they know an experience of a person of color or a black person
Mm-hmm.
that goes against this idea that there's racism, they'll say, well, I have this black friend or I have this
Yeah,
Asian friend that thinks this is totally fine. And they'll use that in their argument.
Yeah.
So then when we talk about distressed clothing, I'm thinking of Kanye West and his deconstructed clothing line.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
how I know there's white people that would say, well, Kanye West, has his clothing line.
That
where
doesn't
it's-
make it right.
It doesn't make it right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't wear Yeezy stuff either. So
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting you bring that up,
Mm-hmm.
the white friend or the Asian friend.
Uh-huh.
I always wonder who this friend is,
Right.
and if they actually feel like it's all right,
or
or do they just not speak up because they're
Yeah.
the minority? And I don't mean by
Exactly.
race. I mean by all of their friends
Sure.
are white, or even honestly even black.
Sure.
I know Asian people who grow up in black communities.
Right. Right.
And like, when I'm around them and their friends are saying some problematic stuff.
Sure.
And I'm like, yo, what the hell are you?
But they're very submissive about it.
Yeah, and they just kind of, that's just my
Right.
buddies being funny. And I'm like,
Exactly. Yeah.
actually, that's kind of problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Like, this isn't just a white thing. Like, this is,
Right.
again, we talk about the white side of it because it's
Mm-hmm.
70 something percent of the population. But yeah, like, I wonder who these white and black or Asian or, like who these friends of color are,
Right.
that are just allowing these things to
and there's
happen.
way more background to it. It's not just
Yeah.
that this person is okay with it. Like you said, and in past, I've been very submissive. When I hear things going on, when I experience them, quite often, as much of an activist as I am now, and you have to keep in mind, a lot of my activism is on social media. So I have that protection of being behind a keyboard.
You have that.
Okay?
You have that wall.
Right.
I
So-
wouldn't consider you a keyboard warrior, though.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I feel like a lot of the things that you, first of all, you wouldn't be here right now talking about
Oh,
this if you
absolutely
were
not.
just a keyboard warrior.
Right.
So
And, that's not to say I'm still anxious about talking about this
Mm-hmm.
stuff publicly, because I've always been very passive, as opposed to when someone says something to me in person. For example, if I'm called a chink, my first reaction is to run away,
okay,
fight or
okay.
flight, right? However, and that's just based off of the trauma that I've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to say something in the moment, but when you're thinking about the anxiety that arises from being called that and targeted in that way,
Right.
it makes you, for me personally, I just want to run away.
Yes, that is. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
because anytime we're faced with a negative situation,
Right.
our natural reaction to it is to get. I'm talking, but I had the camera on you. Our natural reaction is to separate ourselves from that situation.
Yeah.
And then at some point, we have to make a choice whether
Right.
we're going to go.
Right.
So there's the path of. So I don't know if you noticed, but I'm straight edge. I've been straight edge my entire life.
Me too.
Are you?
Straight edge for life. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wait, didn't we talk about
We
that?
mentioned it, but
Yeah.
and that's another podcast, because the
Yeah, that's a
straight
whole.
edge community.
We're gonna have to talk about that on a Thursday.
I know like a handful of straight edge people.
There really is. There really is. But I tell people it's the path of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things take the path of least resistance.
Right, right.
So the path of least resistance would be to run away.
Yes.
Or to just not deal with it, ignore
Right.
it like it's not there.
Right, right.
But at some point you decided to take the path of resistance. As a matter
Mm-hmm.
of fact, I think that's a straight edge band.
Is
Path
it?
of Resistance. Yeah, I think so. I think it's a hardcore band. At some point, you decided to take the path of resistance.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times these are teachable moments. Somebody might say this to you,
Right.
and you confront them about it. And honestly, even if they don't see it then,
Right.
one day they look back,
Yeah.
and they're going to say,
that sticks with them.
Yeah,
and at least you're posing this idea that someone doesn't agree with what they just did.
Yeah.
And they pause. And most times when I do bring it up in the moment, they're taken aback. And then they get defensive. And then they justify, again, saying it was just a joke.
Right.
Or you need to stop being so sensitive. That's my favorite one.
Yeah, that was... Oof.
Right. But at least then, even though I have to put up with that reaction, like you said, later on, the hope is that they'll think about what they did and how it affected someone else. And that's what we have to, that's what we have to be hopeful for.
It's kind of like, you're right. First of all, you're right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like fighting back when you get attacked, right? You may lose the fight, but that person will think twice about attacking you again because they know they're in for a fight.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're not just going to back down.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So when you confront these people, when they say these ignorant things and you confront them, they'll get defensive. They'll try to justify it. But at some point, they're going to get exhausted, maybe not exhausted from it, but they're going to say, well, should I say this? Because I know I'm going to have an argument if I say this, especially if they're a friend of yours and there's somebody that you're around often.
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to say, well, should I say this? Because I know if I say this, then Miss Vu is going to have an issue with it.
And if it's hurting someone that I care about.
Yeah.
Should I be rethinking?
Exactly. And then after a while, if they don't say it when they're around you, eventually that starts to seep in other life because it starts to become, okay, well, I don't say it when I'm around her. Why am I saying it over here? You know what I mean?
And she can't be the only one that reacts that way and takes offense to it. Yeah, I agree.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So your first instinct usually is to just dip out.
Yes, because in 9 out of 10 times when I do say something, I am met with resistance that then makes me uncomfortable and makes me feel like I should be submissive and not bringing it up. Okay. And that, again, goes back to what I was taught as a child and what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not supposed to say and do.
Right. So you don't come across as maybe because my first experience with you was your voice, and your voice is so powerful.
Wow.
Like it really is. I do want to talk about your voice a little bit. Like it's such a strong. I very rarely. Okay, I don't get starstruck.
Okay.
Like in the world that I work in, being a DJ, I meet quote unquote celebrities all the time. So I don't get starstruck. It's very rare that something like moves me to the point that like it motivates me.
Wow.
And I have to be honest, like I got tons of studio equipment here as far as music. You don't see it, it's all over there. But like I haven't had it set up in like almost a year.
It's been on the back burner.
It's just been there chilling. Like every now and again I'll break it out and work on some stuff. This has been the first time in years that like literally you followed me and then I followed you back.
Right.
And then I looked at a couple of your videos of you singing and I was literally like, holy shit, like I need to work with this person. Wow. Like literally I was like, I don't know how, I don't know in what way. I don't know what to say.
You just had that feeling.
I was like, we have to create something.
Wow. That's very flattering.
I'm just being straight up honest. I was like, I don't care what it is.
Sure.
I don't care what kind of music you want to make. If you were like, well, I only make like Asian classical music, I will figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll do something. Whatever I got to do. And I think I on one of your stories, that was the first thing I said to you. I was like, yo.
Yes. It was a Drake cover, by the way, that I was.
Yeah. And I'm not a huge Drake fan.
I'm not either, but for some reason I saw someone else cover that song, Controlla, And
Yeah.
I just loved her rendition. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I don't play instruments, but I can figure out these easy chords and then cover the song. And it was fun to do. But that's the one that you responded to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? Another thing about me too is I was like, your voice is way too good for covers.
Oh.
Like I've never been a fan of covers.
Okay.
Just because.
It's not their music, right?
Yeah. Well, this might sound weird.
Okay.
Covers to me have always been almost a form of appropriation.
Oh.
So like you'll have artists that will create something, right?
Interesting. Okay.
And then you'll have somebody do a cover of
Right.
it, and that cover gets more traction than
Yeah.
like a case in point is Lil Wayne, right? Made a song called "How to Love."
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
He wrote it. He played the guitar on it and everything.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really have a voice. It's fucking Lil Wayne. He sips
Yeah,
lean
sure,
and
sure.
you know. And then this is the first time I noticed this. So then right after that came out, you had a ton of people that did covers of it. So there was a
Yes.
lot of like really popular like white YouTubers that did covers of
course,
it.
yeah.
And then like everybody on my Facebook timeline would
Yeah.
be posting these covers. Oh, it's so much better than the original. And I'm like, I mean, you kind of don't get to do that because
Yeah.
he wrote it. That's his
Right.
creation.
Is it even comparable? Like,
Yeah,
to say
you know
that
what I
it's
mean?
better?
I'm like,
Yeah.
if you like it more, fine.
Right.
But saying, oh, this should have been the one released. Well,
Right.
he wrote it. It's his label.
Yeah.
It's 100% him. So you kind
I
of,
see
you
that
know.
perception, yeah.
And so like when I see people with a voice like yours, which rarely happens, I probably can count on one hand.
You're gassing me up too much now.
I mean, listen, this is what I do. Like, listen, if you're opposed to being hyped up, you might not want to be around me because I'm going to hype you up for life. Yeah, your voice, I was like, your voice is way too amazing to just do covers. And I was like, I got to create something. I told you in a message, like
Right.
I'll just make it and send it to you.
I know, which
Take
was
it
surprising
and do
'cause-
whatever you want to do
Yeah.
with it. Like,
wow.
like-
Well, okay, so how you view me and my voice, it's crazy because I know that I come off a certain way. You know the term imposter syndrome.
yes.
Right. I have that in regards to my talents and my passions
Okay.
and what I can achieve in this world. So when someone like you offers that and wants to collaborate and work, even though I think about it logically, it's like, well, if they see something in me, then yeah, they're going to offer that. If they didn't see that, they wouldn't offer that. They wouldn't
Yeah.
want to work with me. But then I tell myself in my head that I'm not good enough. And that's how I view myself.
okay.
And I know that stems from just never feeling like I was good enough, equal to, or better than white people.
Oh, okay.
So that's
Gotcha,
how
gotcha.
I have, how my imposter syndrome has manifested.
Okay.
But I love music and I do want to make my own music. And something that you said earlier is I want to make it so that little Asian boys and girls can see this Asian American artist and say they did it and they're successful and they're happy and they're
Yeah.
creating art and I can do it too.
And become more than just a meme.
Yes, exactly.
I've been seeing a lot of like Asian men and women that can sing, and they're just like people will repost them on Instagram
Sure.
of these little snippets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like little snippets, but nobody's like supporting their music.
Right. I see a lot of ones of like younger Asian artists that are playing guitar really well
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. And you're right. It's reposted and oftentimes not even by the original account. It's reposted by other accounts.
Right.
And then are they actually getting anything in return for that fandom that they get
Yeah,
for those
yeah.
small videos?
There's a video of, I don't know if he looks kind of Pacific Islander. He might be Vietnamese.
I'm wondering if I'm going to know
not
who this
sure,
is once you
but
describe.
Like when he sings, he's usually either just counting or doing like
Really?
days. Yeah. He's got a great voice.
Is he just riffing and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Oh,
but
gosh, but
I'm
that went
I'm
viral.
wondering if that's how he's learning English.
Yeah, I wonder.
But it gets reposted so much.
Sure,
And
yeah.
his name is there, but then there's no account. I see no account for him, but I see
he's tagged, yeah.
him reposted on all these other YouTube pages. See him reposted on Instagram a ton.
Right.
And sometimes people are like, making fun of the fact that he's just singing, "Hi, my name is this," blah, blah,
Right,
or
yeah.
or literally just count, like literally he's counting to like 20.
Right.
Or just doing
People are
like
making fun of that.
yeah, or
Oh,
doing the
that
days of the
bothers me.
week, and I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck what he's saying. Listen
Yeah.
to his voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right, right.
He has a great voice, and there's people that have even done like I don't want to say covers, but they'll have him
Okay.
singing and they're playing like keyboard
Oh,
over and stuff like
sure.
that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because they also credit him. But I'm wondering, you know, a lot of these videos have millions of views. I'm wondering if he's seeing any of that. You know what I mean?
I wonder too.
Because from what I see, he's living in like a small room, doesn't have much.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
like, is he getting any kickback for that?
Right.
I feel like, especially someone as talented as you, like you could definitely be, I mean, in my opinion, you're a star.
Oh, thank you.
You could definitely be the lead, not a backup singer, not
Sure.
like, you know, I would hate to see you singing backup for somebody.
Oh, well, thank
Because if you did, you would be singing backup for someone who you are so much more talented than. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like a lot of times we see, oh, this person that is a breakout sensation has an amazing voice, and then you find out, oh, they used to sing backup for so
For a
and so.
very long time
Yeah, you know
before
what I
they
mean?
got
For
their
like
spotlight.
years,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
years. And you have so much life ahead of you. I would
thank
hate
you.
to see like the next 10 years you're singing backup for
Right.
some wannabe pop star that really isn't great. Like you're literally like your voice, honestly, like man,
Well, thank you.
I'm gonna put your social up there again. I've been doing it through the whole thing, but y'all have to go check out her Instagram page and just listen. Just close your eyes and listen.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the whole backup singer thing because I recently sent in one of my videos from that Instagram account to an artist named Toby Nwigwe.
Okay. I'm not hip.
I would like you to listen to it. He's
Okay.
an activist, and he's from Houston, I believe. And one of the videos going viral right now from him, the title of it is "I Need You Too."
Okay.
And then the song talks about arresting the killers of Breonna Taylor.
Oh wow.
He is a powerful lyricist and rapper.
Huh.
And I sent in one of those videos because they were looking for vocalists. I haven't heard back,
right.
so I don't think I got it. However, when you mentioned that,
I mean, you never know. You might hear back.
yeah, who knows? But I would love to do vocals for people like that. You know, for people of color, for Black people that are using platforms and are being activists. Do I want to be a backup vocalist for anyone else? Probably not.
Right.
And I would love to have my own platform, and I would love to be center stage. But that's, it's in the works. So
I mean, rather than singing backup, I would
Right.
I would rather see you doing, duets or collaborations.
oh, sure. Well, we talked about burlesque too.
Yeah.
And so if you've seen
Do you sing during? You said you do burlesque,
Well,
right? Do
burlesque-
you sing during your burlesque?
in the typical burlesque
Well, first of all,
sense-
do you still perform burlesque?
Not currently.
Okay.
Because of COVID. However, as soon as I feel it's safe, and I'm brainstorming creative ideas because
Okay.
there's drive-through strip clubs right now.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So why not do drive-by or drive-through burlesque?
Drive by burlesque. That sounds kind of dangerous. Not gonna lie.
That's another thing. Never mind. Drive-through burlesque, which could work in the market right now. But so no, traditionally burlesque dancers lip sync. Or they
Okay.
just solely
Okay.
dance and do their striptease to a song or a track.
Right.
If you remember burlesque with Christina Aguilera and Cher, the whole
That was a movie, right?
It was.
I never saw the movie.
yeah. Well, the plot of that, to keep it short, is just that Christina Aguilera brings live singing and vocals to burlesque performances. And it just brings in crowds of people to this venue. And my burlesque debut was in Austin, Texas at a
Okay.
drag brunch. And I was a spotlight performer there. And I did a cover of Beyonce's Ego.
Okay.
And I did live vocals for that. So, with burlesque, I thoroughly enjoy the burlesque culture, and I love incorporating the live music. And it's not something that's mainstream, and it's not done often where there's live vocals. So that's another one of my passions.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you plan on bringing live vocals into your into your burlesque.
Exactly.
That is interesting. Do you have a burlesque stage name? Is it the Satin Cowgirl?
Satin Cowgirl is the persona that I've taken on for that. I also told myself that if I ever did get into sex work, I would go under the name Dirty Chai.
Dirty Chai.
Because my favorite drink is chai.
Chai tea?
Okay, it's so funny because I used to call it chai tea too, but chai means tea. So you're saying tea.
So you're saying TT.
TT, yeah.
That's like when that's like when I watch movies and it's like ninja assassin. And I'm like, by definition, a ninja is an assassin.
So you're saying assassin.
So you're saying assassin.
How funny is that? Yeah.
Or what's that shoe store? DSW Warehouse.
Okay.
The DSW stands for Designer Shoe Warehouse.
Warehouse. Oh.
So it's Designer Shoe Warehouse.
Don't people catch that?
I didn't. I just said chai tea. So
yeah, I guess
clearly I don't catch anything.
So yeah, that would be my stage name.
I had no idea that chai meant tea.
It does.
In what language is that? Is it Chinese?
No, I think. Well, I don't want to say because I let's look it up.
Yeah, let's look it up. We have a whole laptop over there.
Because also, I believe that chai originated in India. I don't think it's. Okay.
Okay, let's see. You don't think that it's Chinese?
I don't believe so.
Because I know China is known for having really great teas. If I'm not mistaken.
Chai originated in the Indian subcontinent. So
okay.
It's not from China or Vietnam. It's Indian.
Oh.
Yeah.
So chai is Indian for tea?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. Definitely learn something new every day. Yeah, so once everything goes back to normal, you are going to return to the burlesque stage.
Right.
You said that if you ever did get into sex work, like what type of sex work would you consider?
We're talking about everything today.
If that's listen, we don't have to talk about anything you don't want to talk about.
I would love
like
to.
if you
okay, well, we could talk about so much today.
Did you just give me the black girl attitude finger?
Did I?
You did
gosh, don't.
You did that?
I'm just
I always, whenever people come up to me
Yeah.
and like I'm DJing and they want to make a request or something and they do that, I'm like, listen, I
That's an instant.
got 7 sisters. I know the black girl attitude finger and that's it. When they're like, okay, boo boo,
No,
listen.
I promise that's-
First of all,
that was not my intent.
my mom does it like no
Does
one
she?
else. Like, first of all.
Oh gosh. And you know when she puts that finger
Yeah,
up that,
yeah. So you just did it again. Look at
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's just natural. It's just see, you're gonna be a great R&B singer.
Oh my goodness. That's so funny.
So yeah, you were mentioning like if you
Right,
ever did
right.
sex work, like
Yeah.
what type of would you just move from like burlesque to like exotic dancing or something else?
Well, we know OnlyFans.
Right.
And that can
A lot of
also
controversy going on with
I know,
OnlyFans
because that
right
can
now.
turn back to the whitewashing because Bella Thorne.
Bella Thorne jumped in there and messed it up for
Everyone.
everybody.
And a lot of the artists on and the sex workers and entertainers on OnlyFans are minorities.
Yeah.
So-
We're actually going to talk about that Tuesday.
Are you?
Yeah, we're gonna.
Oh, wow.
I think we're gonna talk about that on Two Endangered Mammals, and we
Okay.
might talk about it again. We might talk about. No, we're not gonna talk about Thursday. We'll bring it up Tuesday.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm gonna do. We'll bring it up Tuesday, and then once I get you back in here for a Thursday,
Okay.
we'll really get into it. But we're going to talk about it right now as
Right,
well, since
right.
you're here right now.
Yeah. So
But-
I actually have an OnlyFans.
Okay.
I guess this is the first time I'm saying it out loud on video that I do have an OnlyFans. But there's nude content. I wouldn't say, my face isn't in the nude content though.
Gotcha.
However, it's still, there's nudes there. I'll just
Yeah.
be honest.
I mean, right now, who doesn't have an OnlyFans? I mean, I don't have
Fair.
one,
Yeah.
but the OnlyFan I have is right here.
There
this
you
is my
go. Keeping you
this
cool.
this is my OnlyFan. But right now, like, who doesn't have an OnlyFans?
Sure. Yeah.
And anyone that's condemning people with an OnlyFans
Yeah.
is just clearly either just they're stuck in 1959
Right.
or especially right now, like it became a very viable way to maintain an income.
Right.
Was an OnlyFans. And again,
Sure.
like my mom says, use what you have to get what you want.
Of course.
My only issue, again, not cutting you off.
Yeah.
My only issue with a lot of my friends that have an OnlyFans is one, complaining about people not signing up. And I'm like, listen, we are in a pandemic. So you know, people might not have the money,
and
to,
the funds.
yeah, you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
And then,
Because the Pornhub premium subscription is free right now.
yeah, matter of fact, it was free for like a whole last month, I think.
Which is
they were
crazy.
giving it away for free.
Yeah.
They make so much money on there. I mean,
Do they?
we can delve into the porn industry is a wild.
that's a
I
whole-
worked in the
yeah.
porn industry for,
Yeah.
I still do actually. Not as a performer, but I've directed and filmed.
Wow. Okay.
For a very prominent name. I won't put him on blast right now, but
I have to know after though.
but yeah, for his company, I've shot, you know, like probably like 10, 15 scenes.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm very knowledgeable about the industry, and yeah, they make streaming sites make so much money.
Sure, yeah.
And all of them are owned by like 2 to 3 umbrella companies.
See those umbrella companies. I'm learning.
That's
about
why
that.
that's why I'm
crazy.
a fan of OnlyFans. Well, not a fan, but so the thing that I like about OnlyFans is that it puts the power back into the hands of the performer.
Sure. That's
There's
the hope,
a
yeah.
lot of times that I would go on an assignment, right?
Okay.
And so like let's say I film 5 scenes. If you tally up what all of the performers made
Right.
total,
Right.
I'm walking away with more than them total
Really.
just for filming. Yeah.
my
I mean,
gosh, wow.
you gotta figure on average, a lot of performers, a lot of female performers will come in and make like $350 per scene, sometimes 4, and these are beginner numbers. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Obviously, more established people will garner more money, but these are
course.
beginner numbers,
Yeah.
right? Male talent usually 2 to 250, but a guy can shoot like 3-4 scenes a day. You know what I mean? Women sometimes will shoot 1 to 2.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, women a lot of times will shoot maybe a couple of scenes a week,
Okay.
maybe 3 a week. I mean, it's that, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot of trauma basically
Yeah.
is what's happening.
Yeah.
So, but guys can shoot scenes every day. You know, a lot of the bigger names will shoot like 3-4 scenes a day, every day.
Wow.
For like, you know, a couple of weeks, and then take a few week vacation because
Wow.
they can. They've made all
They
their
can,
money.
yeah.
But a lot of the streaming sites are all owned by like the same companies.
Right.
As a matter of fact, Pornhub actually owns a bunch. The company that owns
goodness.
Pornhub owns a bunch of the other ones as well.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, the good thing about OnlyFans is it puts you back in control.
Right. And you're the creative director.
You're the creative
you
director,
choose what
so,
you do,
yeah.
how often you post.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, if there's a gangbang scene on an OnlyFans page, that's because she chose to do a gangbang
Right,
scene. It's not
right.
like some company was like, "Look, this is what
this
you
is
have
what
to do."
you are doing.
Although
Yeah.
I have heard of some companies starting to creep into the OnlyFans scene.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot like
believe that.
YouTube. It's a lot like YouTube
Yeah.
where you'll have this creative company that's like, "Hey,
Right.
I want to promote your YouTube."
Right.
But I get a percentage of the profits that you make, so
Yeah.
so on and so forth. There's people that are doing that for like a lot of OnlyFans workers, and I tell them like, look, get out of that.
Right.
Whatever you got to do to get out of that, get out of it because you can do that on your own. It's your body.
It is.
So why should I be making money off of your body?
Sure.
Just to say, hey, go look at this video. That's really all. You know what I mean? Sex sells itself.
It does. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if and you know, so all I have to do to promote you is post a picture and say, hey, go to this OnlyFans page, and people are gonna go.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? You can do that. So why am I getting paid? You know what I'm
good
saying?
point,
So
yeah.
I tell them like, look, if you got somebody above you that's doing that, get out of that
Yeah.
because you could do that yourself. You can
Right.
get the numbers yourself. Maybe they have a team of people to get your followers up quicker.
I think that's the argument, yeah.
In time, you can do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's
You
your
have to dedicate your time to it.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
what
it's a job.
I battle with that because it's like I'm not at the point where I'm fully committed to that platform.
Yeah.
And I haven't fully decided what I want to do with it.
so it's a side hustle right now.
A little bit.
So you're Bella Thorning it up.
Well, now apparently
except you're not a multimillionaire.
exactly who has made millions off of it already
Yeah.
in a week.
Yeah, and because of that, I guess
They're
all of the other
withholding
creators,
the payments to the
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
creators.
that's crazy.
I know. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, where else should I take my talents? And if
Right,
OnlyFans is
right.
going to be screwed up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could create your own website.
That is true. I've thought about that.
Yeah, you can create your own website.
I don't think I personally will, but again, getting creative during COVID, it's like, well, are there safe spaces that I can perform that could gain traction?
Yeah, I would think you could do, because you said you also do live performances and stuff. You could start doing that in like a digital way.
You're right.
You could start streaming it or something like.
Sounds
I'll help.
true.
I'll help.
There we
If you
go.
need help, I'll help. And I'm saying it on record. I will not charge you.
That's crazy to
I will
agree
not.
to
I will
that.
not take a percentage of
Yeah. Wow.
So it's official. Y'all heard it here.
You did.
That
Be on the lookout for a Tiger and Isla production.
If you ever want to do like a live performance or stream it or something like that,
cool.
I'll help. I will 100% help.
Well, I appreciate that.
Buy
That's
me
amazing.
lunch or something like
There
that.
we go.
We'll call it even.
Juice or something. No coffee.
There you go. No coffee. No caffeine.
No caffeine.
So I live by one of the codes I live by. I don't believe in getting rich off my friends. Like I just don't believe in it. So like a lot of times when I do photography, like I don't know if you saw when I had my friend Chris Goody on here, amazing photographer, and we were talking. I don't really, when I do photos for people, I don't really charge them.
Wow.
So like sometimes they'll buy me food. Sometimes like it's a donation basis.
Be careful. You're gonna have a bunch of friend requests now.
Right. It's always on a donation basis. Like if you have it to give, cool, I'll accept it.
Sure.
But don't ask me how much, because that's just a weird, what I mean?
Well, that's a really neat thing that you do, because I feel like a lot of people in the creative industries are greedy and don't often look at it that way.
It also becomes their job. Photography is not my job.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Fair.
It's my artistic outlet.
Right.
And I don't charge for art. You know what I'm saying? My job is a DJ.
Okay.
So that's my career choice. And obviously I charge for that. But even that, I'm pretty laid back. Like I'm not very hard to work with. You know what I mean?
can tell, yeah.
Like if you have it and I know you have it, okay, yeah, pay me. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
If it's a startup, or if it's like a friend of mine that's just having a little get together and would like some music, like we can work something out. You know what I mean? But when it comes to photography, like I just like to shoot. You know what I'm saying? And I was telling you before, like, but there's certain things that I'm not going to do. Like this isn't my job, so don't look to me to do your makeup or you know what I mean, or even choose your outfits or pick what type of shoot we do. Like that's on you. Anything that you've seen, like if you now that you finally follow my photo page, like anything that's on there, that was their idea and that's what we shoot. Right. So if I ever shoot any nudes or anything like that, it's because that's what they wanted to do.
Of course, yeah.
Not because I was like, hey, here's an idea. Let's go out to the forest and
oh my gosh.
let's go out to the forest and take your clothes off and we'll shoot some pictures. Yeah, that's definitely not me. But yeah, if you ever want to do something live, I will definitely help. 100%. Awesome. I am volunteering my services right now.
Well, I'm excited.
Even if you need like photos or something like that.
Right.
I mean, we talked about it before. Like we talked about shooting some stuff. Like I am definitely at your disposal.
Well, thank you.
So like what type of, well, you said you had an OnlyFans and you said that if you ever got into sex work, what your name would be. So other than the OnlyFans, is that where it would?
Yes.
So that's where the buck stops there.
I've thought about, getting into the stripping industry, and I reached out to people that I know that are sex workers and specifically strippers. And there was one amazing woman in Austin who gave me a lot of in-depth advice about what it would actually be like. Okay. And that was enough for me to just not want to do it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Because it is a hard job.
Yes.
Physically and emotionally and mentally.
100%.
And so I'm glad that I spoke to someone and I asked them before exploring that and just going to a club and auditioning. Because I now see that that's not what I want to do. And quite frankly, that I'm not emotionally and mentally cut out for. So, and with OnlyFans, like you said, the power really is in the hands of that creator. Right. So that's why it feels like a safe space to me. However, I wouldn't want it to be a career ever. Right. I want to, and that's not to say that people don't make a career out of it and that they don't have fun. However, I know myself and I know what I want long term. And I think that I would be more stressed being on OnlyFans than I would be. And, if I'm doing it and having fun, and OnlyFans, again, we want to make sure that we talk about how OnlyFans isn't just solely for sex workers.
Right.
That's how it's shifted. However, you can put whatever content you want on OnlyFans.
I know people that do like fashion stuff on their OnlyFans.
Right. I thought about doing ASMR.
Oh, yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't have to put my face on it, but I could. I mean, I'd get more views if I had video.
Do you have the equipment to record that?
No, and I was going to ask you after.
I do.
Well,
I got you covered. Yeah, I got you covered.
I want to invest in a good mic. So for ASMR.
So there's a recorder that a lot of people use. It's the Zoom H6.
Okay.
And I have that. Oh. And I rarely use it, but
maybe
I went down a rabbit hole. I went down a rabbit hole of like ASMR videos. When I heard of it, I was like, what the hell is this?
Right. It was kind of scary at first.
So then I watched it and I was like, there's people with millions of followers on YouTube for this.
Making millions.
Millions. And I was like, the one girl that I watched first, like she used the same recorder that I have. Oh. And I was like, oh, no, I never once thought about doing it.
Yeah, that's not why you had it.
Yeah, it's not my thing. But yeah, apparently I have the proper equipment. No, I'm talking about for you. I'm talking about to help you out. Perfect. I'm here to help you. I'm here for you.
Let's shoot right after this. This is my first ASMR tape.
Right after this. First try.
I also think about, okay, well, what am I doing? I could, read sexual fantasies, do that.
That's actually not a bad idea.
That would sell on OnlyFans.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. That would sell on OnlyFans. That would go well on TikTok. That would go well on YouTube, honestly.
Sure.
You should do it.
There we go.
You should do it.
Big plans.
I'm convinced right now you should definitely do it. I mean, and these are all sex work friendly sex work adjacent.
Right.
That doesn't require sex.
Right.
One of the things that we had talked about on my podcast was sex work is a tricky thing. So there's a lot of people that say sex work is work, and you're absolutely right. And it should be treated as such. However, it's one of the few jobs that is also a very intimate part of a relationship.
You're right.
You know what I mean? So there's a little bit more care that needs to be taken, like with sex workers and their relationships. So like one of the things that I saw was, well, you wouldn't expect a chef to come home every day and cook dinner for you. So why should a sex worker come home and be expected to have sex? I understand that. The thing is, I 100% understand that. Like if you work in the adult film industry, right? And you're shooting all day.
Of course.
You don't want to then come home and then have sex with your significant other. You know what I mean? You're not really going to be in the mood. At the same time, that takes a little bit of, on the part of the sex worker, a little bit of understanding on the part of the significant other.
Right.
Whereas what you do for a living is also a very intimate part of a relationship.
That would be very tricky.
So it's one of those things where you kind of have to be understanding to a point and be like, okay, I understand this person is attracted to me.
Of course.
This person is with me because they care about me, they love me, and they want to be with me in that sense.
Right.
So as long as they're being respectful. Now, if they're like, yo, you're out here fucking all day and then you come home when you don't fuck, then fuck them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They can fuck off.
Right.
But as long as they're being understanding, then, sometimes it helps if you are also like reflective of it. Like in psychology, there's reactive and then there's reflective. Reactive would be like, God, you're always trying to have sex with me, blah, blah. And then reflective is, okay, this person cares about me.
Of course.
This person is with me. And obviously this person would like to be physical with me. I'm not in the mood right now.
Right.
Let me just explain that, you know what I'm saying? And say, listen, it's not you. This is the job. It's a tricky situation. Understand that it's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
It's not just a job. And I'm not trying to mansplain sex work to anybody.
Sure.
But these are my feelings.
Of course.
It's not just a job. It is a job. and it's a legitimate job, 100%.
But
It's a legitimate
job
career
where it affects your
Exactly.
personal life
Exactly.
on a very intimate level as well.
Yeah, cooking for someone isn't always an intimate part of a relationship.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't have to be. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Going and putting out, if you're a fireman, you know what I mean? You don't always have to come home and put out fires. It's not an intimate part of the relationship. As a DJ, I don't have to come home. If I have a girlfriend, I don't have to come home and DJ for my girlfriend.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not part of the relationship.
And you don't technically have to have, sex with your significant other, but if that's something that is needed,
that is part of the relationship.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Sex work is the only work where your job is also, in a lot of cases, a very intimate part of a relationship.
And that's something, honestly, I haven't put a lot of thought into, is that personal aspect of that job, and how people in a relationship where one of them or both of them are sex workers, how does that affect your own intimacy and relationship overall? That has to be very difficult.
I mean, I would imagine it would be. I guess it would depend on the sex work, because not all sex work involves sex, right?
Right. Like if I'm doing OnlyFans and I'm streaming, videos of me naked or doing strip teases, I will probably be okay in that aspect of my relationship. It's not going to feel taxing to then go home and be intimate with
now,
my
you may
partner.
not want to do a strip tease for your person, but
of course,
as far as like the sex, you haven't been having sex all day. So I feel like it's that same thing for like a lot of cam girls and things like that. They're not necessarily having sex all day.
Right. Yeah.
So it might not be as much of a hindrance. But as far as like porn performers, because I hate the term porn star, because not all of them are stars. You know what I mean? Like, just because you shot some films don't make you a star. But porn performers, I mean, there definitely are stars.
Sure.
But porn performers, like, you're literally having sex.
Right.
And it's not, rarely is it intimate. You know what I mean? It's literally basically what I don't mean to lift the curtain for anybody, but a lot of times with porn, is if it's guy girl, then the guy is basically using the girl to masturbate, and the girl is just kind of there going through the motions. There's the passion a lot of time is fake, right? You know what I mean? Unless you have,
I've learned a few things about it that I didn't know before.
Yeah, there's some performers that have chemistry in there. You know what I mean?
Of course.
It's not say it never happens, but on average, it's a job.
It's a production too.
Yeah. There's so. I tell people, like a couple friends of mine was like, "Oh, I could totally do porn." I'm like,
can you?
I was like, I don't think you can. I'm like, I don't think you realize how many people are actually there watching you. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
I wouldn't be able to do that.
On a typical set, I think the minimum, other than the performers, is like 3 to 6 other people.
It's a lot of people to be performing.
And that's if it's a more a higher budgeted thing, then you got craft services, you got the makeup people, you got the grips, the set design and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Wow.
It's a thing. It's definitely a thing. But yeah, it's definitely, sex work is work, but also it is a part of a lot of relationships at the same time. I think both sides need to be a little bit, first of all, the person who is dating the sex worker needs to be fully understanding.
Oh, of course.
Like,
there can't be that. I mean, yes, there can be jealousy, but if you go into a relationship knowing that you're dating a sex worker, there has to be some framework of respect and, like you said, understanding of what their profession is.
I feel like if you go into it dating a sex worker, there can't be jealousy. You can't be a jealous person and start dating a sex worker.
That's toxic.
Yeah. I did a couple friends of mine. She was a waitress for like years, and her and her boyfriend have been together for, and I promised them I wouldn't say their name. But they know that I talked about this because the shoe fits.
Right.
So she was a waitress for like maybe 2 years.
Okay.
They've been together for I think over a year.
Okay.
And then recently she decided to get into sex work. Okay. So he's been supportive. He has questions.
Sure.
And he has some, never doubts, but he has questions. He's like, well, is this necessary or is that? or he'll get some weird feelings, but it's never a situation where it's like you should stop.
Right.
He's still super supportive.
It's curiosity.
And then like she gets frustrated. And so we were talking about forced acceptance on the podcast. And I was saying that it was part of the mental health life hack too. If you got to force people to accept what you do, you don't need those people in your life. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So if you're doing
Amen.
sex work, if you're singing, if you're being an artist, and you got to force people to accept that as a viable career, you don't need those people in your life.
Right.
Now,
Well,
the flip side to it is that you shouldn't force people. Like if you spring things on people,
sure.
you can't force them to accept it. You have to allow them to accept it. Now, he accepted it. It's just he's not 100% there yet, even though he's supportive. He still has questions. He still has curiosities.
Right.
There's still things that he needs to know. And I was telling her, don't get angry at him.
When he's curious.
Yeah,
And he
I'm
has
like,
those
the whole
questions.
time you were together, you were a waitress.
Right.
Now you've been a sex worker for like weeks.
Right. It's
Maybe a
new.
month. It's very new. So
Right.
he's not going to, you can't just flip a switch.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and I say he because in this in particular
Sure.
situation
Yeah.
is he. So he can't just flip a switch and be like,
Right.
okay, I'm good. Like this is fine. You know what I mean?
Well, it actually surprises me that they stayed together because I've heard of instances where that would happen and then the significant other would just dip out.
Yeah.
Because it's such
Yeah.
a foreign concept and very threatening to the relationship.
And that to me, it's both sad. It makes sense, but it's also
Sure.
sad.
I understand it.
Yeah, I understand. It's
Right.
sad that they can't come to grips with it. Like I know a lot of guys whose girlfriends decided to make an OnlyFans and they had a huge problem with it.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, she's not.
Yeah.
Man, she's acting like a hoe. No, she's using her sexuality to make money to help y'all pay rent.
There
Like,
you go.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, a quick story about my past. You're a photographer. We know a few mutual photographers in this community. I was in a relationship a few years back. I think I was 18 or 19 when I first started collaborating with photographers and doing creative projects in Cleveland. And I remember my significant other made me feel very guilty about it. And this wasn't nude photography. This was me, in costume or it was a fashion photo shoot. And it made my significant other very threatened, very jealous. And ultimately, I stopped doing those photo shoots for a while because it made my partner uncomfortable.
Really?
So I can only imagine then how he would have reacted to something like OnlyFans. You know,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have been together if that was the thing.
Yeah,
So,
definitely not.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The partner was male.
Male. Mm-hmm.
That was testosterone talking. 100%.
Oh my gosh, you
yeah.
mentioned testosterone and
I,
anger.
I made a video like most of the 90% of the dumb things men do
Sure.
is a combination of testosterone and
Sure.
anger, and the other 10% is just testosterone.
I agree, but then you also have control over your mind and your reaction to that flow of testosterone, or do you not?
No, you don't.
Interesting.
I do,
Okay. But
I do,
Sure.
but that's a lot of work.
I believe you. I believe you.
So, biologically speaking, men possess, on average, about 3 times the testosterone that women do.
Okay.
Like one of the things that when I talk to some of my lady friends and they talk about working out and things like that, and they're like, I don't want to look like a man. And I'm like, listen, men have 3 times the testosterone that
Right.
women do, and they still take stuff to look like what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, you're not going to look like a dude.
Yeah.
Don't worry. But yeah, like that's so. When it comes to like testosterone flaring up and anger and things like that, like, yes, we can control it. 100% we can control
Sure.
it. Like I'm a firm believer. We can control it. I do it every day. Like I don't rage. I don't get mad. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not that kind of person. At the same time, when I was younger, there was times where I was like pissed and there was nothing I could do about it.
Right.
I couldn't woo-saw. I couldn't do none of that. Like I couldn't do anything.
And I totally believe the scientific reasoning
Yeah.
behind our reactions and our emotions. And again, going back to testosterone, I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah, but I mean, it still ain't no reason to be swinging on nobody
Sure.
or
Right.
trying to.
Right.
But that was the testosterone making possibly making him feel insecure about what you were doing.
And
He might have seen it as a challenge to his manhood.
Well, the standard for society too is that you're in possession of your partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
my girlfriend, my boyfriend,
Right.
my lady, my man.
Yeah, I don't want he would also just tell me how to dress, which thinking about that.
The only time I ever do anything like that, I ain't gonna lie, it's happened. But a lot of times what I'll say is I'll look and I'll be like, man, there's a lot of material there.
Oh my gosh.
Just because, listen, if I'm attracted to somebody, I like looking at them. And if you want to show off, show off.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna go to the side and admire just like everybody else is admiring.
There we go.
So,
that's a good way to look at it.
That's just my
And here's
personal.
the thing too, is that it doesn't matter if, I'm covered up from head to toe or if I have a bikini on. People still look and people still have imaginations and people still wonder.
Right. And a lot of times they fetishize.
Yeah.
You're still Asian. You can't cover that up.
Yeah, right.
So that's such a wild. Now on your social medias, do you get a lot of people that like you obviously have a good amount of followers? Are a lot of them like, are they fetishizing you or are they there for like artistic reasons?
It really depends. On my Satin Cowgirl account, I do follow a lot of artists and creatives on there. Right. I don't often get DMs that right off the bat are sexualizing me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or making mention to that. However, I do know on my personal account, I posted about my OnlyFans, and that gained some curiosity from my male followers they just wanted to ask about it and why I was doing it. Right. I've had female friends ask me why I was doing it, and I can't say though that I felt attacked and sexualized in that way. But there have been random encounters where I'll be out and about and people that are hitting on me will bring up my race or right off the bat, like they'll come up to me and the first thing they say is, are you Asian or are you from China?
What kind of question is, are you Asian?
Yeah. Well, clearly because So, and also it's just like greet me with a hi or hello at first.
Yeah, say hello. Introduce yourself. Don't just...
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I might come off as someone who's going to just be very combative when it comes to race-related questions, but most often I'm very empathetic. And if I see someone is asking questions out of curiosity, then I will answer your questions. I'll be happy to answer your questions and have a conversation with you. But when the first thing that you say to me has anything to do with my race, that's when it's kind of like, okay, treat me as a human, not as a shiny
not a hello
object.
or anything. Yeah.
Right.
I get that in the form of not nearly the same thing, but when I'm DJing, people will walk up and bark a request at me, and I'm like, "Yo, say hello first,
right.
or say hi, like say something.
You're
Don't
not
just
like
be
a
like
caged performer.
Yeah. I'm not a servant.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm here doing it. I'm an artist, and I'm here doing a job.
Right.
It's kind of like if you're singing or if you're doing burlesque, and somebody's like, "Hey, flip the feathers in front of," like, yo, I'm not your servant.
Exactly,
I'm here.
yeah.
I'm performing for you.
Yeah.
There's a video that you posted recently. I think it was on one of your stories. And in my mind, I'm like, man, I bet her DMs are blowing up right now.
They're not.
I think you were outside in the rain and you had gotten a car. You were like soaking wet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, a pretty wet Asian woman. I'm like, these DMs got to be popping right now. Nobody said anything?
No, because I think that, the way I portray myself.
I mean, in a way that's good, though. In a way that's good that they didn't say anything.
I hope it's because people just respect me or know that I won't respond well.
Yeah.
But no,
Here's the thing. If we knew each other better, I would have made a joke or two.
Sure.
If we knew each other
Yeah.
better.
And I do get, like, my
Once
male
we're
friends.
at that point.
I get a lot of messages and replies from my male friends saying, damn, and you look good and stuff like that. But,
hyping you up, basically.
Hyping me up,
yes.
Not just degrading me and sexualizing me. There have just been a few random messages that will ask about my race, and I just ignore them, and it's expected at this point. But I think I have been good about prioritizing what energy I put towards that.
Right.
So
I was, when I actually messaged you that first time, I was very, I don't want to say fearful, but I was kind of worried that I was like, I don't want this to come off the
Yes.
wrong way.
Right.
And I didn't want, I didn't want it to just seem like, I didn't want to seem like I had ulterior motives.
Of course.
And like in my mind, I was just like, yo, I'm sure she gets these kind of messages all day, every day. And then at some point it was just like, dude, your heart is good.
Yes.
Just
your intentions are good.
Yeah. Say what's on your mind and see what the hell happens.
Yeah.
And here you are.
Yeah, and you talk about too. It's funny when you guys talk about sliding into DMs.
Oh yeah, Yeah.
Hey, there's a whole female perspective to it as well. And let me tell you. Oh, absolutely.
Is there?
I
Please,
slide into
please
DM.
elucidate me.
I am the master of sliding into DMs.
Really?
I am. I am. Mm-hmm. So, okay, going back to South by, you know who De La Soul is, right?
Obviously. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in 2019,
it's one of my favorite hip hop groups of all time.
Of course. Well, I found out they were performing at South by in 2019. I didn't get a wristband or a pass or anything because I didn't know they'd be there. They're one of my favorite groups, hip hop groups. And so I was like, damn, I didn't get a pass. There's no way I'm going to be able to get a ticket off of anyone. I go onto Instagram and I DM De La Soul's Instagram page. And I just say like, hey, I didn't know you were going to be in town. I'm really disappointed. I wish I could see you guys. One of them messages me back on Instagram.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And says, you know what? We got to chatting a little bit. And then they said, yeah, you seem like a cool person. What's your name? I'll put you down on the list.
And they put you on the list?
I got to see De La Soul that night. Yeah. I got to hang out with Trugoy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know that means yogurt, right?
Yes. It's yogurt backwards.
Yogurt backwards.
Right. Yeah. And so here's the thing is that, it really, I think it does have to do with your intentions, but my perception on this is that it doesn't hurt to ask things if the intent isn't ill. And if you're not just, I don't know, people can read energies, right?
Right.
I'd be able to read your energy if you were coming into my DMs and it seemed sleazy or if there was like an ulterior.
Like if I was trying to smash or something like that.
Exactly. But like, if I want things or I have questions or if I think that, also you have to consider that when I message people like that, I don't always think they're going to message back. But hey, why not just extend that energy and open a door like that and see what happens, right?
Yeah, you can't make the shot unless you shoot your shot.
Exactly. So, I'm guilty of sliding into DMs in that way.
Oh, guilty.
Yeah. But hey, it didn't seem like one of those transactions where it was just like I'm mooching off of this person,
Right,
And to this day, like, I have a friendship with this person and I feel glad that I reached out to them.
Yeah.
So
I feel like there's a disconnect sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas it's one of those things that's been done wrong so many times that anytime it gets done, it's just assumed that it's for nefarious purposes.
Absolutely.
So like, especially for women, I know women catch it way more than men do.
Yeah.
Like so many guys are in their DMs saying wild shit.
Right.
That when just a normal person that may have started following you and you might have followed them back and they are genuinely curious about a painting you posted or a song you sang or a photo you taken and they maybe have some questions or something. A lot of times they won't get a reply and it's not their fault. It's because of the actions of other people.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, that's kind of catching shrapnel from a grenade that you didn't throw or wasn't even thrown at you, but you're catching it.
Right.
I feel like that happens a lot. And it's sad because social media is supposed to be that. It's supposed to be social, I
agree.
Social media wasn't really created for people to be out here making money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was created for people to keep in touch. But it's become this social media, I don't think is really social anymore. I think it's more it's more business media.
Advertising, marketing.
Yeah, 100%.
All about the money, yeah.
Especially like Facebook has become less about keeping in touch with friends and family and more about clout. And I got to delete thousands of people from my Facebook all the time just so I can add more people.
Yeah.
And because there's a 5,000 limit. And that's not me. That's not. Yeah, that's a 5,000 limit. And that's not me bragging. I don't know most of these people.
Sure.
Like I was talking to Pun on TEM, and I was like, I just found out recently that I have fans, And because I never view anyone as that. And one of my friends, she was like, well, you know, how many friends do you have on Facebook? And I told her, and she was like, do you know all those people? And I was like, no. Honestly.
Do you know half of those people?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, I know a lot of people, but probably not. And
I only have like 400 friends at this point.
And
I post on there for my family.
There you go. And I'm like, she's like, well, those are fans. And I'm like, nah, no freaking way that those are. But I mean, apparently
I believe it.
Apparently I got a fan or two. I'm not going to let it go to my head though. Oh, Mrs. Vu. I feel like we have to wrap this up.
I know. How long have we been going?
I don't know, a few hours.
Okay.
Whatever.
It's really easy talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's very easy to talk to you.
Thank you.
And especially this is my first time having a sit down and a deep dive. I really enjoyed it. And thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for trusting me to come and tell your story, and trusting me to come and tell me your story.
Right. You create a safe space.
I try. I do what I can. It's the artwork in the background. That's
there
what
you
it
go.
is. Makes people feel so. It's the fake tree. It's the fake tree back there.
It's fake.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's fake.
We gotta get you a real plant.
I know. That tree has history. So I told you about the Ilthy shop when it used to be in Lakewood. That plant is from the Ilthy shop.
I see. So it goes along with the
It
banner.
goes along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's in the other room, but my coffee table is from the Ilthy shop as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This shirt is an Ilthy shirt.
Is it?
Yeah. So Ilthy is like the unspoken sponsor of
There you
all
go.
this. Yeah. They provided that background, which is that's a rare
good.
background. That's the year
Is it?
one background. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's all the designs he did the first year that Ilthy was around. He did all those.
Wow. And you got that.
And I have it.
It's in your setup.
I'm special.
You are special.
Just today I'm special. I mean, I have it for good, but today I'm special because you're here. Once again, why don't you tell people how they can reach you on your IGs?
IG is Satin Cowgirl, so go ahead and follow that.
Is there anything else you want to put on there? Do you want to put your OnlyFans on there or no?
OnlyFans, you can DM me if you want my OnlyFans.
Okay. Yeah, you got a DM for that. Once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I would love to have you on a Thursday show.
I'm excited to come back. Yeah.
And I would also love to have you on do another one of these with you as well.
Yeah, let's do it all. I know. I feel like there's so much that we could have spoken about today, and there's just not enough time. Let's do another one.
Let's do another one.
Perfect.
Let's do another one in a few weeks.
There we go.
100%.
We'll see you then.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
we are signing off. Peace.
Bye.